6 probes all inserted their sensors into the white stone column. This white sedimentary stone column was composed of numerous irregular inner cavities. In the center of the column, hot steam was rising. The probes randomly inserted into the inner cavities of the column began their investigation. Zhang Su clenched his teeth, his eyes wide open. Whether he could make it into textbooks depended on this moment. There must be a discovery. Chapter 158. In this universe, humanity is never alone. The probes inserted into the white sedimentary rock column. This sedimentary rock column was Zhang Su's last hope. Within these columns were countless small inner cavities, which might nurture the early forms of life in the underwater world of Europa. These early forms might hold the key evidence to unraveling the origin of life on Earth. Beep. In the transcription room, the large screen displayed that the probe had begun reading the environment within the small cavities of the white sedimentary rock. Data slowly appeared before Zhang Su. The first probe detected formaldehyde in the white sedimentary rock. The numerous small cavities in the white sedimentary column created subtle acidic and basic environments, resulting in a natural concentration gradient of protons on the cave walls, which would trigger reactions, allowing carbon dioxide and hydrogen to combine and produce a series of organic compounds, including formaldehyde. With the discovery of formaldehyde, Zhang Su felt a surge of energy. He had a strong sense that something big was coming. The second probe reported similar findings. The fifth probe detected large amounts of carbon dioxide and hydrogen. Zhang Su's heart began to race. Could it be that he was mistaken? Just as he started to doubt himself, furrowing his brow, a biologist nearby reading the data suddenly became excited, nearly dancing as he exclaimed, "The sixth probe has made a discovery." The inner cavities detected by the sixth probe revealed ribose. A substantial amount of ribose. Ribose. Zhang Su quickly looked up and immediately thought of the reason. In a mildly basic environment, formaldehyde can link together, then break apart, transforming into various sugars, including ribose. And it can even produce deoxyribose. Ribose is the 5-carbon sugar that rotates in the middle of nucleotides. Moreover, with ribose, if a phosphate group comes in from one side and a base from the other, a nucleotide can be formed. Phosphate groups are everywhere in the dormant rock column. Bases are generated from amino acids in the environment. It is well known that amino acids are almost ubiquitous. Moreover, once nucleotides are discovered, they can even generate amino acids on their own. Are there amino acids? Zhang Su's breathing became rapid as he hurriedly asked. I was just about to say, old Zhang. Not only are there amino acids, but there are also 20 different types of amino acids. In fact, we even found precursors of bases in the small hole of chamber 6. The biologist's mouth was almost stretched to his ears. Phosphate groups, ribose, bases. The raw materials for nucleotide formation have arrived, right? With nucleotides present, only one condition remains for RNA formation: concentration. Nucleotides can only condense into long chains to form RNA at very high concentrations. RNA, it can record information, replacing DNA. It can also catalyze reactions, replacing proteins. It can accomplish the entire central dogma on its own. Make the sixth detector a key focus. Zhang Su waved his hand excitedly and immediately reported to Zhang Chanchu, urgently saying, tell all detectors to pierce the next small hole in the chamber. Keep the sixth one still for now and record the current chamber environment. Received? Will comply immediately. Zhang Chanchu sensed the suppressed excitement in Zhang Su's tone, knowing that this was important, and acted promptly. The other 5 detectors quickly chose new chambers and released their probes. However, this time, the results of the detection drove Zhang Su even crazier. Because, on the first detector, an extremely significant discovery was made. The first detector found the thermophoresis effect and high concentrations of nucleotides on the cold end wall of the chamber, and even a large amount of RNA. The biologist was already standing up in excitement. Due to the thermophoresis effect, high concentrations of nucleotides aggregated and condensed into RNA. But that's not all. The connected nucleotides captured organic acids and even generated long chains of amino acids. Zhang Su swallowed hard, his hands clenched tightly. He initially thought the sixth detector was already a special case. To his surprise, there was another powerhouse here. Not only were there long chains of RNA, but there were also long chains of amino acids. With long chains of amino acids in this concentration environment, there is a chance that the chains could twist into proteins. Keep searching. The probes are uploading data, and we are reading it. At this moment, that biologist was shaking with excitement. His eyes were glued to the screen filled with reporting data. This is a discovery that will go down in human history. Their group will be remembered by future generations for this finding. This will be a significant milestone in biology. Old Zhang, good news. We didn't find proteins, but we found replicase RNA. In addition to replicase RNA, there are thousands of various bizarre and twisted RNAs. Another major discovery. A large amount of RNA is continuously twisting due to the thermophoresis effect. During billions of years, among countless twisted RNA strands, there happened to be 1 or 2 that formed the shape of replicase RNA. This replicase RNA can use nucleotide raw materials and RNA information to create new RNA. Thus, a genetic mechanism formed within RNA. This mechanism emerged through exhaustive processes in a natural environment. I was almost overwhelmed by this surprise. Zhang Su held his head, speechless with astonishment. With the emergence of replicase RNA, if this entity were to mutate over countless periods into reverse transcriptase RNA, it could then use deoxyribose and RNA to synthesize DNA. This is not impossible. RNA can twist into countless shapes in such an environment. And it would be completely feasible for it to twist again into reverse transcriptase RNA during that process. Because, on a timescale of billions of years, through countless distortions and exhaustive trials, there is bound to be one fortunate occurrence. Anything can happen. The evidence found on Europa proves that these events indeed occurred. In Europa's water world, these processes are currently taking place. Jiangsu could hardly imagine the impact this information would have when it returned to Earth. The origin of life has always been a gathering place for various myths and theories. The reason is simple: it cannot be falsified. Scientific theories are also hypotheses. Creationism and even alien creation theories cannot be disproven. Moreover, in folklore, creationism is quite prevalent. Jiangsu looked down on creationism. They just had to find a big daddy for themselves, right? If not aliens, then a deity. Now, their discoveries on Europa are merely current findings. They are the strongest evidence. Life arises from the irregular motion of molecules. As long as there is a suitable environment, with a bit of luck over time, life can emerge. Even observing the situation on Europa, Jiangsu had a bold guess. Life might be widespread in the universe. There are just too many situations like that on Europa, where the planetary environment is harsher and still struggling to develop. In this universe, humanity is definitely not alone. Chapter 159. Is this a fragment of human genes? The discoveries on Europa almost completely confirmed the white chimney hypothesis. Life emerged from a series of molecular movements and chemical reactions, coincidentally born in chaos. The Jupiter Gravity Probe, in its subsequent exploration of these 5 points, found more complete evidence. The first probe discovered proteins and RNA in the 25th inner cavity, proving that early proteins were actually chains of RNA nucleotides that, after polymerizing organic acids, fortuitously gave rise to amino acid chains. Indeed, the sixth probe even found complete reverse transcriptase RNA and DNA. DNA-RNA and proteins have finally formed the original central dogma. We have discovered the origin of life, with the most important evidence supporting the white chimney hypothesis, which is completely viable. Now, every second spent here brings us closer to understanding the origin of life. Jiangsu and the accompanying scientists are in a frenzy. Their research is tireless. They have found naturally occurring primitive DNA, RNA, proteins, and various enzymes. This place is a paradise for the study of the origin of life. Among the 5 detected points, numbers 2, 4, and 5 show lower evolutionary degrees, with multiple explorations revealing only abundant ribose and deoxyribose in their interiors. In contrast, points 1 and 6 exhibit a high degree of evolution. In the white sedimentary rock column of Detector 1, Jiangsu discovered a decisive piece of evidence: the interior of chamber 89. Within this chamber, the most primitive lipids formed a continuous layer, encapsulating iron-sulfur proteins, DNA, RNA, and various enzymes through hydrophobic interactions, creating the most primitive life form, LUCA. Indeed, primitive life has emerged in chamber 89. The original cells, LUCA, utilize RNA for genetic inheritance. On Europa, LUCA has appeared, representing the inception of life. Jiangsu gazed at the data reported by Detector 1, filled with awe. The debate over the origin of life that has persisted for centuries in this universe seems to have reached a conclusion in his hands. Life has no designer. It is simply billions of structures resembling white chimneys, born from suitable materials and chance over hundreds of millions of years. With this, the initial exploration by the Jupiter Gravity Probe has come to an end. This single exploration has thoroughly confirmed the secrets of the origin of life. Jiangsu's gaze encompassed all of Europa. He is certain that there are more discoveries on this moon. Each geological activity point is like a small world, some developing slowly, others rapidly. This exploration has only examined 6 points. There are certainly thousands of such geological activity points. Perhaps, in some places, not only has LUCA evolved, but even more advanced life forms may have emerged. This is all possible. Jiangsu is already looking forward to the next exploration. Meanwhile, Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan, who were watching, are also wide-eyed with amazement. Thus, life has been discovered on Europa. Although it is only primitive life, similar to LUCA, it is still significant enough to shock the entire human world. Who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we going? The ultimate questions of humanity have found an answer regarding our origins. The source of life has been located, with a known path ahead. The great Eastern nation will steadfastly march toward the future. After completing the preliminary exploration of Europa, Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan entered a state of dormancy again. For Fang Jing, dormancy feels just like sleeping. By the time he opens his eyes again, 6 months have passed. He has returned to the underground section of the Xishan base. That's right, after the landing of the Jupiter Gravity, he and Zhou Yuan, along with the sleep pod, were sent back to the base. With a soft hiss, as the lid of the sleep pod slowly opened, Fang Jing gradually sat up. Welcome back. Zhao Guangyao stood nearby, smiling. Brother Zhao, have we arrived? Rubbing his somewhat dazed head, he found the feeling of waking from sleep quite strange. Before sleeping, he was still in the orbit of Jupiter, and now he had somehow returned to the Xishan base. Hey, you kid, still in a daze. Confirming that Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan were fine, Zhao Guangyao grinned, helped him up, and said earnestly, "It can't be that I've arrived at the orbit of Jupiter, right? Welcome back. Sun Wang, take him down and let him recover well." Xishan base, underground section, expert group research room. Fang Jing sat at the computer desk. listlessly typing a series of letters on the computer. Akakag gaka. Snap. With the last letter typed, Fong Jing let out a long sigh of relief. Slumping in his chair. Over 100,000 letters. I almost died. With a moan, Fong Jing nearly fell asleep. It had been half a month since he returned. And he came here every day to input the letters indicated by that machine. After evaluation by the expert group, this sequence of letters was indeed basis, genetic information. Fong. Is the input complete? Beside Fong Jing, Dr. Cyril, with white hair and a beaming smile, asked. He was a specially invited expert, regarded as the strongest biologist in the region. It's done. Fong Jing nodded weakly. Good, let's start the comparison. Dr. Cyril nodded and pressed the comparison button on his computer. The quantum computer activated. The comparison began. The genetic information input by Fong Jing was rapidly processed, leveraging the powerful parallel computing capabilities of the quantum computer. It was simultaneously comparing with the genetic information of all species on Earth. Comparison data complete. The genetic information has a similarity of 99,995 with human gene fragments. Preliminary judgment indicates it is a wrongly input human gene fragment, and the erroneous fragments have been marked. The quantum computer comparison revealed that this was actually a human gene fragment? A human gene fragment? Cyril's eyes widened in disbelief as he first pulled up the potentially erroneous fragments and then handed them to Fong Jing. Fong, check if you made any mistakes. Okay. At this moment, Fong Jing was also confused. What? Human genes? What's going on? Cautiously entering his consciousness, he fiddled with the machine. Familiar letters reappeared in his mind. Fong Jing compared them and his eyes widened. I didn't make a mistake. No mistake. Cyril furrowed his brow, slowly nodding, and turned his attention to the different fragments. Since there were differences from human gene fragments and Fong Jing hadn't made a mistake, the only possibility left was that it wasn't human. However, these gene fragments, although different, exhibit identical traits when compared to human genes. This left Dr. Cyril even more puzzled. In other words, the genes provided by Fong, while differing in genetic information, show minimal differences when manifested in biological individuals, so small that they are nearly indistinguishable. What is going on here? In Chapter 160, the issue lies with the humans of the New World. The genetic information indicated by the machine underwent thorough analysis by Dr. Cyril. He could confirm that the expression of these genes in biological individuals would only have minor differences, similar to the variations found among species within the same genus, perhaps even smaller. Cyril did not trust the machine's judgment. This is certainly not the gene of modern Homo sapiens. The genetic information coded as 0005 is evidence of that. Undoubtedly, this is a species closely related to us in the genus Homo, capable of hybridization. However, I must say, I have yet to study why there are such traits despite the existing genetic information differences. To Dr. Cyril, this is exceedingly strange. The genetic information that is distinctly different from humans ultimately manifests in biological individuals as identical to human genes. This is illogical. It does not make sense in genetics. A being formed from such information should exhibit considerable differences from humans, whether in physique or other traits. Yet, the traits expressed by the genes are the same. It is as if some designer meticulously altered it, solely to retain this segment of differing genetic information, which is also more efficient. Designer? Cyril reported his suspicions verbatim to Old Zhu. This is a serious matter. The universe has confirmed that life does not have a designer. It arises randomly in chaos. Yet here, you've presented me with a designer, one who has created genes strikingly similar to those of humans. Are you playing games with me? Alarmed, Cyril immediately compared the genes of two groups of Huagua people from the Jiuzhou world. It wasn't until he found that their genes were almost 99,99999 similar to those of Huagua people from this universe that he finally sighed in relief. No problem, the humans here are fine. The issue lies with the New World. The humans of the New World may have been designed. Dr. Cyril, are you saying that the humans of this new world have a different origin from us? Old Zhu and Fong Jing raised their eyebrows upon seeing Cyril's report, finally accepting this premise. The origin of humanity is different. It should refer to the method of birth being different. Indeed, in terms of genetics, the node universe and our Jiuzhou, to be honest, the genes are like codes. Since they are naturally stacked and not optimized, as long as they work, there are many minor issues. However, the genetic information represented by this string of characters from the New World is more concise and efficient than our genetic information, showing clear signs of artificial intervention in its design. A spark of excitement flashed in Chiril's eyes as he asserted. The humans of the New World originated from some kind of designer. The genetic information of humans in the node universe in Kyushu is like a messy heap of code, just enough to get by. The many nonsensical settings and various path dependencies in their bodies actually provide indirect evidence of this. Meanwhile, the genetic code of the New World is low in density, but high in efficiency. This is something that couldn't have been achieved on their own. In other words, the humans of the New World have their creator? Zhu Lao slightly raised his eyebrows. He wasn't fond of the title creator. Creator. Fong Jing's eyes widened. No way. This can't be some kind of magical world, right? But at least we can be assured that there won't be any angels or deities. Sensing Fong Jing's worries, Chiril pressed his hand down and whispered, modification obviously employs biological science methods, and the traces are quite evident. However, I must remind you to be cautious of humans when you go to the New World. Be careful of humans. That statement sent a chill down Fong Jing's spine. No. They are no longer humans. They are creatures optimized by the designer, resembling humans, but not quite. In the new disinfection chamber at the Shishan base, Fang Jing calmed himself and decided to set off immediately. The new world was calling him. He truly couldn't sit still. Fang Jing, remember to come back directly if there's any danger. Zhou Yuan and Sun Wang were also in the disinfection chamber. Patting Fang Jing on the shoulder, Zhou Yuan laughed heartily. We'll be waiting for you here. Don't worry, with the heavy cavalry, it won't be a big problem. Dressed in a specially designed heavy cavalry exoskeleton armor, Fang Jing felt a surge of confidence. With just a casual punch, I can exert at least ton-level power. The thickness of the armor is outrageous. One punch could take out a small child, right? Moreover, in response to the warning about being careful of humans, the research department had specially upgraded the heavy cavalry's weaponry. In addition to conventional weapons, the heavy cavalry was also equipped with biological attack weapons. Both hands could fire jets of up to tens of thousands of degrees. This temperature would turn a biological target to ashes. Furthermore, the outer layer of the heavy cavalry was covered with a special armor made from the materials of the space elevator's passenger cabin floor, using molecular nanomaterials. It was resistant to high temperatures, radiation, corrosion, and had high impact resistance. In this universe, this material was the best of the best. Additionally, to prevent Fang Jing from appearing in some inexplicable location, the heavy cavalry was equipped with a complete oxygen supply and pressurization system. Even if Fang Jing ended up in space, he could survive for at least 6 hours. The logistical support for this was truly a product of immense effort. Zhao Guangyao stuffed everything that could fit into it. The current heavy cavalry was the pinnacle of human individual soldier technology. It was essentially a small mecha, paired with a 40mm heavy electromagnetic rifle and over 100 rounds of ammunition. It could unleash high-temperature rays within 7 steps, sweep with a machine gun up to 400 meters, and target with the electromagnetic rifle beyond 400 meters. Guard, middle guard, long-range fire. 3-in-1. Invincible. Ahem. This firepower configuration is indeed unmatched in this universe. Fang Jing clenched his fist. The ample firepower calmed his somewhat anxious heart a little. Indeed, all the tension stemmed from insufficient firepower. He was still a bit nervous now, surely because he didn't have energy armor, his defense wasn't thick enough, and his firepower wasn't overwhelming enough. When would heavy cavalry have energy armor and individual firepower exceed that of a combined battalion level? Even when he could break through the atmosphere by himself, would he still be nervous then? Nonsense. It would be his enemies who would be trembling at that time. Enemy, wonderful. Wonderful, what super mobile Gundam? Fine, so this is how we play? In the kill room, Zhou Yuan conducted the final checks. All systems of the heavy cavalry are checked. Fang Jing, safe travels. After completing the check, Zhou Yuan and the others took a few steps back and solemnly performed a military salute. The respect in their eyes was genuine. Each exploration of a new and unknown world carried a danger level that even exceeded the combat missions Zhou Yuan had previously undertaken. Therefore, Zhou Yuan and the others treated it with the utmost respect, as if sending a comrade to the battlefield. Don't worry, if there's danger, I'll return immediately. Fang Jing returned the salute and nodded. His consciousness immediately sank into the machine. The next second, Fang Jing disappeared from his spot. A new world awaited him. Chapter 161. Prometheus. This was a silent world. The entire planet was desolate, with only faint thunder and storms occasionally sweeping through. The vast land was filled with exposed rocks and crumbling soil. A gust of wind blew, stirring up swirling dust. In this immense valley, there was a solitude unique to an alien planet. Suddenly, with a swoosh, a colossal figure, pitch black and reflecting metallic hues, appeared in the valley. Checking in, gravity equivalent. Conducting air analysis. Analysis complete. 71 nitrogen, 21 oxygen, 3 carbon dioxide, and trace unknown gases. Temperature, 27-24 Kelvin. Here it is. Fang Jing had crossed into a new world. However, it was somewhat different from what he had imagined. This time, he was starting directly on an alien planet. The air composition and temperature definitely could not be from Earth. With 3 carbon dioxide, if Fang Jing were to leave the heavy cavalry, he might not last 2 minutes before perishing. It would be a sure death. Fortunately, he had increased the exoskeleton settings. Otherwise, he would have been electrocuted by the electric net in a biohazard situation. Being electrocuted by a wild boar's electric net would probably be the most humiliating way to die. Taking a deep breath, he calmed himself and surveyed the barren world around him. Currently, he was in a vast valley. First, he would deploy a drone. For combat missions, intelligence comes first. As the first explorer of this new world, Fang Jing had prepared various detailed plans with the expert team before setting off. He just needs to execute the plan to ensure maximum safety. Alright, detector, let me see what this planet is like, and what kind of world this is. The electromagnetic rifle's muzzle is expanded. The unmanned detector is inserted into the muzzle, connecting it to the rifle and heavy cavalry. With the rifle's energy switched to fusion battery supply. After completing these tasks, Fang Jing raises the rifle high, sets the electromagnetic rifle's power to the maximum, and then pulls the trigger without hesitation. Bang, 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 bang. A series of low, resonant firing sounds erupt. A fleeting afterimage passes by. The unmanned detector, powered by the enhanced electromagnetic rifle's kinetic energy, flies into the air at an unimaginable speed. The unmanned detector has been deployed and is scanning the terrain. Gravity conditions detected. The unmanned detector will enter the planet's low Earth orbit. Loading now. Loading complete. Scanning. Transmitting data. Fong Jing restores the electromagnetic rifle. And in front of him, an image of a planet gradually appears. It is a planet very similar to Earth, with oceans and vast expanses of blue. However, unfortunately, there is not a hint of green on the entire continent, which is barren. At least on the surface, it seems that there may be no life on this planet. No life. Fong Jing's eyes widen. It can't be that there's no life. Otherwise, this crossing would be too ridiculous, right? The hint is a string of inexplicable genetic information that is highly similar to human genes. The crossing location is an utterly lifeless alien planet? Is this a joke? Perhaps the owner of that genetic information is on this planet. Fong Jing refuses to believe it. There must be some trickery involved. Detector. Scan the globe for suspicious man-made structures. Detector's smart terminal received, executing now. He still doesn't believe it. There will definitely be a discovery. Outside the planet. On the Prometheus, the captain organizing the landing in orbit looks utterly bewildered. Just moments ago, on this target planet, they suddenly received a radio signal. What the hell? How can there be human frequency radio signals on this planet? The signal comes from low Earth orbit. Is there human exploration on this planet? No. Our colonial fleet hasn't come this far. Has the signal been decoded? No. LV-233's ionizing radiation is too strong. The signal is intermittent, and we failed to receive it. At this moment, a group of people preparing to land on the descent ship is completely confused. A planet that humans have never explored actually has radio signals highly similar to human frequency. How is this even possible? However, among the crowd, there are two exceptions. Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway exchange glances, their eyes revealing a look of surprise. LV-233. This planet is exactly where they were tracking clues to find ancient civilization relics on Earth. Now, this planet has shown radio signals similar to those of human civilization. Could it be that the engineers who created humanity are really on this planet? A flicker of ecstatic joy crossed Dr. Zhao's face. Her husband, Charlie, felt the same way. The two were so surprised they almost embraced. They were about to overturn 3 centuries of Darwinian theory, proving that humanity was created by these engineers. We need to land quickly. Almost instantly, Dr. Zhao and her husband eagerly looked at the captain. Oh, all right. The captain glanced at the company head, Vix, and upon seeing her nod, immediately began to operate. Attention everyone. I am the captain. Prepare for landing. Raul, Chans, let's land. Got it, boss. On the Prometheus. A research vessel with 4 engines detached from the mothership and began to descend slowly. As it passed through the planet's atmosphere, the ship gradually lowered its altitude. What came into view was a desert, with towering tornado storms and thunder rumbling within. Looking across the continent, it was silent and still, not resembling a planet capable of supporting life. There were no radio waves, no heat sources. The previous radio signals had vanished. It seemed they had gone shy. Huh. There's nothing in the desert. We should descend. Come on, let us go over that hill and take a look. Look over there. Suddenly, Dr. Charlie pointed to a valley and exclaimed in surprise. God can't create a straight line. That's where we're going. Oh my gosh, is that a ruin? In the distance. In the direction Dr. Charlie pointed, amidst a valley, 2 clearly visible straight lines formed what looked like a wide runway. At the end of the flat runway was a hill. On either side of the hill were objects with regular architectural shapes, seemingly guarding the hill like sentinels. These structures clearly bore signs of being man-made. Without a doubt, this was a ruin built by extraterrestrial beings. We are landing right there. Dr. Zhao and Charlie could hardly contain their excitement. Goodness, at least one of their guesses was correct. There really are extraterrestrial species on this planet. This would be humanity's first discovery of intelligent extraterrestrial life, and it was very likely that humanity had found their creators. Meanwhile, on the spaceship, while Dr. Zhao and the others were overjoyed, in the distant valley, Fong Jing, wearing anti-thermal detection gear, had his radio communication interrupted due to detecting counter-detection methods. He stared in astonishment at the descending spaceship that had suddenly emerged from the opposite hill. What on earth? A spaceship just suddenly appeared. Chapter 162. Wow, brothers. We've stumbled upon a superluminal spaceship. No, 2 of them. Fong Jing was also a bit dazed. Just moments ago, he had launched an unmanned probe to scan this unfamiliar planet. Suddenly, the probe detected that someone was trying to triangulate his position through signals. The defense mechanism was immediately activated, and Fong Jing's radio signal source was instantly cut off. The heavy cavalry immediately activated stealth mode. The thermal radiation sources were concealed behind thick stealth units, shielded by armor. Originally, upon receiving a signal from someone, Fong Jing felt a surge of excitement. After all, this indicated that he was not the only one in this alien world. Whether friend or foe, he at least needed to gather some intelligence to understand which world he was in. However, the next moment, the scene unfolded as described earlier. He was contemplating how to make contact when suddenly, from the opposite hillside, a spacecraft shot out. Indeed, from Fong Jing's perspective, it appeared suddenly. Moreover, the spacecraft had 4 thrusters facing downwards, clearly landing. Landing? I need to go take a look. With a glimmer in his eyes, Fong Jing decided to sneak over and see what the situation was. A sci-fi-shaped spacecraft, with incredible mobility, slowly descended into a vast valley, just outside a clearly artificial ruin. Inside the spacecraft, the crew stared at the ruins in front of them, momentarily stunned. Charlie excitedly kissed his wife, Dr. Xiao, and then said to the captain, Captain, please have the exploration team change into protective suits and meet us in the airlock. It's going to get dark in 6 hours. Why not wait until tomorrow morning? The captain suggested, waving his hand and pointing at the sky. No, no, no. Captain, Christmas is coming, and I can't wait to unwrap my gifts. Charlie shook his head and pointed to one of the team members. David, you, come with us. Without looking back, he led his wife toward the airlock. Left behind, the bioengineer David brushed his hair back, a smile spreading across his face as he quietly said, gladly. In the airlock, the expedition team was donning protective isolation suits. As Dr. Xiao was getting ready, she noticed Jackson picking up a firearm and, pursing her lips, pointed at his weapon, asking, Hey, Jackson, what's that for? Jackson found it somewhat puzzling and raised the weapon in his hand, replying, This is a security measure for the expedition. My duty is to ensure everyone's safety. Unexpectedly, Dr. Xiao shook her head confidently and smiled. This is a scientific expedition. There is no need for weapons. All right then, good luck, Jackson said, maintaining his expression, but his eyes conveyed a look of disbelief. Fine. So that's how we're playing it. I'm just an expedition team member. I'll go along with you. No weapons. I sincerely wish you good luck. This is just a scientific expedition, no need for weapons. If you die, I'll make sure to inscribe that phrase on your tombstone. Thinking back to the radio signals detected outside the planet, Jackson realized that there might be intelligent life on this planet, and their intentions were unclear. He did not actually heed Dr. Xiao's advice and went ahead to hide a small handgun. After all, this had previously been a lifeless planet, but now, it was both a ruin and a signal source. Without weapons, Jackson felt a bit anxious. After all, life is precious, and one cannot be reckless. This is different from going to a desolate planet. Meanwhile, everyone was ready. As the hatch opened, an armored vehicle and 2 all-terrain vehicles sped out. This rather reckless expedition team charged towards the nearby ruins, exuding confidence and audacity. Hiding behind a rocky outcrop, Fang Jing watched in bewilderment. What on earth is happening? Are they going in without any preparation? I don't see any weapons. That huge armored vehicle doesn't even have a turret or a machine gun. Or have these people advanced so far technologically that their weapons are integrated into the vehicles? But even if they had laser weapons or other advanced concepts, there should be a separation between the firing point and the cockpit, right? This armored vehicle is truly just an armored vehicle. Completely armored, yet without a single weapon? Fang Jing felt utterly speechless. He couldn't help but question the lack of reconnaissance equipment and alarms before sending in heavy armor. Just charging in like that was beyond his comprehension. Are they rushing to their doom? After witnessing this scene, Fang Jing rolled his eyes, his memories coming back to him. He recalled the configuration, the spacecraft, the architecture, and the reckless nature of it all. This is just like Prometheus. He decided to capture some data. With a growing hypothesis in mind, Fang Jing felt a rush of excitement. While operating the unmanned equipment to approach the Prometheus lander and preparing to steal data amidst the chaos, he remembered the plot of the movie. Wow, it all clicked. He finally understood. No wonder Dr. Shirel said there were issues with humanity in the new world. The humans here indeed had problems because they were created by the engineers. In this movie, on this planet, there's an engineer spaceship in that round ruin. And it contains countless biological weapons. And there's even a living engineer. The engineers are an extraterrestrial intelligent race, with genes highly similar to those of the humans here. Wow. With this realization, Fang Jing was exhilarated. The alien movie, in his eyes, was now just a minor challenge. With his gear, encountering an alien would be a piece of cake, one shot for each, and he wouldn't even get hurt. Now, Fang Jing's focus was on the potential gains from this place. Not only was there an engineer spaceship, but also the Prometheus spacecraft of humanity. 2 faster-than-light ships and an extraterrestrial intelligent being. As long as he acted at the right moment, everything would be his. Even that engineer could be captured. Perfect timing. As the biologist from Project 237 wanted to research extraterrestrial life. Just in time, here it comes. With his spirit lifted, Fang Jing smiled, realizing the potential gains were going to be outrageous. At that moment, the unmanned detection device cracked the information of the spaceship. The reckless crew of the research vessel referred to the spaceship as the Prometheus. Chapter 163. The storm has arrived. It's time to reap the rewards. Fang Jing hid behind a distant rocky outcrop, gazing at the massive spaceship before him, filled with desire. He truly wanted to take action and seize the Prometheus. But he couldn't, because at this moment, there were crew members aboard the Prometheus. The crew was armed. Even though the Prometheus was a research vessel, no one could guarantee that it wasn't equipped with some bizarre weapons. Even if the people here were incompetent, what if there were indeed some weapons? The Jupiter Graviton was a research vessel, but that didn't stop it from carrying the most advanced weaponry. Remember, the Prometheus had solidly collided with the engineer's spaceship in the past. Fang Jing never gambled unless it was the right time to do so. So, if he could disable the intelligence system on the Prometheus? Fang Jing's eyes narrowed as he watched the opposing research team enter the ruins. An idea formed. It was well known that the crew aboard the Prometheus had a reputation for being reckless. They got lost even with detectors, and even removed their helmets on an alien spaceship. Fang Jing might be able to use this to create an emergency situation that would allow drones to infiltrate the Prometheus. A plan flashed through his mind. Fang Jing smirked as he activated the emergency quantum communication line. In low Earth orbit, The unmanned detection device, previously launched by Fong Jing, began to lower its orbit, heading towards the mainland. As it descended, the entire unmanned device emitted a high-power signal. The signal had a certain pattern, but Fong Jing didn't fully understand what it meant. In any case, it was a rolling keyboard, a patterned rolling keyboard, emphasizing something that he couldn't comprehend, nor could anyone else. However, this massive signal source immediately attracted the crew aboard the Prometheus. VIX, an unknown radio signal has appeared, breaking through the atmosphere, estimated to be just 20 kilometers away from us. The captain looked at the suddenly appearing red dot in the three-dimensional image, his expression turning serious. I see it. What is this? The employer VIX frowned, filled with confusion. It was unclear, it was fast and small. Captain, do you have any suggestions? I suggest sending someone to take a look. The radio signal indicates that there is intelligence on the other side. The captain furrowed his brow and gave his opinion. According to navigation regulations, this is humanity's first encounter with an extraterrestrial command civilization, and as a research vessel, they had an obligation to record the contact. All right, let us send someone out. Lavelle, you take a team and go out. Vic stood upright and slowly nodded, pointing to someone to lead the team. Just then, there was an armored vehicle in the airlock, so I took the lead and set off. Lull, upon hearing this, was also thrilled and took his team directly to the airlock. The captain and Vix were preparing to assess the situation in the airlock when the first group, including Dr. Xiao, made a discovery. The monitor showed what Dr. Xiao and the others saw, which was transmitted back to the Prometheus. In the ruins, they found images left by the engineers, as well as a body of an engineer whose head had been crushed by a door. Moreover, the accompanying bioengineer David was opening that large door. Oh my goodness! The captain stared at the monitor, where a massive head, resembling a human but significantly larger, was displayed. Mouth agape, do they really exist? Even Vix's usually indifferent face showed signs of disbelief. In the video, the scientific team had removed their helmets and were standing in a room filled with numerous unidentified metallic spires. Additionally, there were dark liquids on the spires. The captain and Vix were both astonished by the discoveries made by the scientific team, so much so that they completely forgot that a team was disembarking from the airlock. Do not doubt that they are capable of this. In the airlock, team leader Lowell, wearing protective gear, was sitting in the armored vehicle, looking exhilarated. Oh yeah, he was about to capture alien instruments. This is so cool. After organizing the equipment, he activated the airlock's buffer plate and drove the armored vehicle out. Meanwhile, in the shadows, Fong Jing took the opportunity to activate all high-altitude drones. Now, the entire planet was filled with massive radio signal sources. The hatch opened. This was an opportunity. Fong Jing gritted his teeth, taking advantage of the signal interference, and immediately launched the drone in hand. A high-speed shuttle turned into a blur and darted out. Just as the Prometheus was closing its hatch, the shuttle charged in. At the moment the hatch closed, the shuttle crashed into the chamber. On the Prometheus, Vix and the captain, still in shock, were suddenly jolted awake by an alarm. Beep beep beep. Detected an unknown object colliding with the airlock? The captain looked confused, preparing to check the monitor. Unexpectedly, a louder alarm sounded. Warning, warning. An unknown data source is invading the Prometheus. Control of the airlock door has been compromised, and the ship's intelligence system is searching for the source of the intrusion. Data source intrusion? The captain's eyes widened. What just happened? What crashed into the airlock? Moreover, it was invading their ship. Sound the alarm throughout the ship. Vix was also bewildered. They had just been shocked by a huge surprise, and this unexpected event came too suddenly. Just as she was about to order a full ship alarm, another surprise struck. The ship's intelligence system detected that a superstorm was about to sweep through the valley. Beep, beep, beep. Before the first alarm had ended, another one followed. The sound was extremely piercing. Damn it, turn off this infernal alarm. Vix growled angrily, and then ordered, get Dr. Xiao and the others back quickly. Their protective suits won't withstand this storm. Vix, don't forget about Lavelle. In an urgent situation, the captain added, immediately starting to issue orders. Dr. Xiao, Lavelle, a storm is coming. You need to return immediately. David, you lead the way and check what's in the airlock. Something has invaded our ship, so be careful. Yes, Captain, I will be cautious. David's voice came through. Along with another piece of bad news. We have 2 people missing here. Oh damn. Upon hearing this, the captain slammed his fist on the table. Damn it. The problems are piling up like a tidal wave, making his head spin. Something has invaded the airlock. A storm is approaching. And 2 members of the research team are missing? Are you kidding me? I'm just a captain, not a superhero. I can't save everyone. To be honest, Fong Jing really picked a terrible time. Now, with invasions and data breaches, the captain wanted to handle it, but damn it. He still had to rescue the research team members. There's no way to seal off the airlock, right? Ha ha ha. The storm has come at just the right time. Hiding in the shadows, Fong Jing was ecstatic. The bigger the storm, the more valuable the fish. Now that the storm was here, it was time to reap the rewards. That's right. The drones tested Prometheus and found that such a large superliminal ship's computer system was surprisingly engaging in a back and forth with the intelligent program newly developed by Zhuzhou based on the Red Queen. They were really trading blows. Fong Jing felt completely carefree now. Damn it. Just intercept the ship. Chapter 164. Pirates are coming. On the Prometheus, the captain and Vix were in a dire situation. Unknown invaders, a storm, and missing crew members. These 3 issues seem to have been deliberately piled together. This was really making them feel stuck. Let the Prometheus system protect the ship's core and airlock. We can ignore the rest for now. Notify David that the storm is accelerating. They need to hurry. At this critical moment, Vix, who had always remained calm, made the decision to prioritize the core. The control of the ship's core system and airlock must be preserved. Everything else can be temporarily set aside. Understood, the order has been given. And the Prometheus's intelligence system is counterattacking to reclaim control of the core system and airlock. The captain held his breath. The core system includes the regeneration and preservation system, onboard energy system, and hibernation system. This is crucial for the ship. Once these three systems are shut down, everyone on board will only be able to survive on the remaining oxygen for 6 hours. Therefore, even if the weapon systems cannot be preserved, the core system must be safeguarded. The intrusion program discovered our intentions, took control of other systems, and retained access to the airlock controls. The intelligence system of the Prometheus simply couldn't resist. Damn it, we're just a research vessel. We didn't install any advanced AI. The captain swore at that moment. The core system was intact, but they had forcibly seized control of the airlock. Damn it. What if some aliens burst onto the ship? Hurry. Have Chiens and the others grab their weapons and head to the airlock. David and his team are coming. We absolutely cannot let this intruder on board. Vickers was also in a state of panic. The intruder. The sudden emergence of the intruder was a matter of life and death for them. It felt like a thorn in their throat. Yes. Chiens, take your weapons and guard the airlock. The ship's weapons have been compromised, so now they can only take personal arms. If the intruder boards, who knows what will happen? Yes, I will head down immediately. Chiens complied and quickly went to the airlock with his team. Captain, Lavelle has returned, and Dr. Shaw and the others are on their way back too. Vickers' eyes were glued to the monitor, and his anxious emotions were slightly alleviated. However, trouble kept coming. Here, 2 teams had finally managed to return. But then something went wrong again. This is David. We have reached the airlock, but the samples we brought back are lost. Dr. Shaw left the team without authorization. David's voice sounded helpless as he explained, I am conducting a rescue. What? Vickers' eyes widened in shock, nearly fainting from anger. Beep, beep, beep. Just then, the ship's intelligence system issued another alarm. Warning, the intrusion program is now controlling the airlock, and 5 high-speed moving objects are rushing into the airlock. The captain's voice was almost a scream, his eyes bulging with rage. The timing of this intruder was too precise. Damn it. They popped up just when they were rescuing someone, and couldn't dare to close the airlock. Hurry, Captain, immediately close the airlock. Don't worry about David and Shaw. Vickers clenched his fists and shouted the order. If Shaw is dead, then so be it. David is a bioweapon, he can't die anyway. What's important now is the ship. There are intruders trying to breach it. If the ship can't be saved, they'll all die. Vickers. The captain gritted his teeth, hesitated for a second, made up his mind, and directly issued the order to close the airlock. The command was being given, but the intrusion program seized control and counterattacked. But damn it, that intruder program emerged again. Damn it. The captain had finally resolved to abandon the crew, and now you tell me the door won't close? The Prometheus. Fong Jing stood firm, relying on the powerful armor of the heavy cavalry and its weight, unyielding in the storm. He observed the ship, constantly searching for an opportunity. Finally, seeing the familiar armored vehicle, Dr. Zhao's group has returned. And, just like in a plot, the head of the engineer that Dr. Xiao carried fell off just before entering the airlock. The moment it was confirmed that Dr. Xiao had left the team to look for the head, Fong Jing sprang into action. He first ordered to keep the airlock open and simultaneously dispatched the only remaining drones he had. 5 of them. These 5 were meant to test the individual weaponry of the crew aboard the ship. Fong Jing was well aware of the importance of caution. He would never act without understanding the opponent's capabilities. Come on, let me see what else you have. His eyes gleamed as he fixed his gaze on the ship. At that moment, he was the hunter. The 5 drones moved quickly, just as Dr. Xiao was rescued by David and brought aboard the ship. They had already reached the airlock door. At this point, in front of the ship's airlock, Dr. Xiao, holding a sealed bag, exclaimed excitedly, I saved it. I saved it. However, the next moment, she looked at the airlock door that was still wide open and suddenly froze. Y&T the airlock door closed. Something was coming. David didn't explain. He turned his head, his expression serious, looking at the raging storm outside the ship. Amid the howling of the storm, he heard 5 distinct sounds. It sounded like the noise from engine jet nozzles. He couldn't be mistaken. Intruders were entering. You all moved from the backup room into the ship. At that moment, Qianxi and his team burst out from the backup room, weapons in hand. David, stay back and help me, hurry. David didn't turn back. He kept his head up, murmuring softly, it's too late. What? Qianxi followed David's gaze and saw unidentified flying objects rushing toward them, his pupils constricted. Too fast. Oh crap. Qianxi and his team could only fire into the air with their weapons. As a result, a comical incident occurred. Damn, such a large ship. And it's a research vessel, and the weapon Qianxi pulled out to counter the intruders was a flamethrower? Fong Jing, who was secretly watching from a distance, burst into laughter. Damn, I thought there was some secret weapon. You're kidding me with a flamethrower? Fong Jing glanced at his own super high-temperature resistant armor. Forget about his heavy armored suit. Even the drones he deployed were capable of direct atmospheric entry. You're going to use a flamethrower? Isn't that a joke? This research vessel is too ridiculous. Really, aside from the 4 engines on the ship, they didn't consider equipping some other gear? So confident. So confident. Then I'll gladly accept this. Hiding behind a rock, Fong Jing smirked. Pirates are coming. Chapter 165. High-end hackers often only need the most straightforward and shocking methods, directly firing the cannon. On the airlock of the ship, a fire snake shot out from the weapon in Qianxi's hands. The flame temperature is extremely high, enough to destroy any living being. However, it only destroys life. The bursting tongues of fire surge forth. Oh yeah, I hit it. I hit it. A fireball appeared in midair. A look of joy spread across Qianxi's face. He had struck the intruder. That damned intruder that had crept in from the storm was hit by him. Burned to ashes, die? Seizing the momentum, Qianxi pressed the flamethrower to the limit. An even more explosive tongue of fire filled the entire sky outside the airlock. Good job. Lavelle waved his hand vigorously, following it with a cheer. Nothing can withstand the scorching flames. The research team, including David and others, also breathed a sigh of relief. We need to enter the spacecraft through the backup cabin. The storm is intensifying, and we must speed up. David protected Dr. Xiao, a gentle smile on his face. Just like a gentleman, he inspired no hostility. All right, Charlie, we should go see the engineers, our creators. Dr. Xiao triumphantly raised the bag in his hand. Inside it was the head of an engineer. It was they, the creators of humanity. Of course, we will prove that we are right. A smirk appeared on Charlie's lips as the two supported each other towards the backup cabin. I am also very interested in the creators of humanity, David muttered softly. His gaze distant. However, before he could finish his sentence, his brow furrowed suddenly, and his ears perked up. It seemed he heard a certain sound. As the backup cabin door opened, the sound of engines revving in the storm suddenly amplified many times. Not good, it's the intruders. David realized and pushed the team forward. They needed to get into the spacecraft as quickly as possible. However, by the time they heard the sound, it was already too late. Drones were already charging down. Qianxi's flamethrower didn't even melt the insignia on the drone. Damn it. Standing at the airlock door, desperately holding onto the flamethrower, Qianxi's eyes widened in terror. No. What is this? It's a machine, unmanned machines. Amidst the flames, 5 drones, braving the scorching heat and impact, charged directly into the airlock. To Qianxi, he only saw 5 afterimages rushing towards the backup cabin. The speed was incredible. He didn't even have time to react before the drones entered the backup cabin ahead of Dr. Xiao and the others. Not only that, at the moment of entry, the drones immediately connected to the backup cabin's data interface. Virus uploaded. Control of the backup cabin has been seized. It's time to strike. Fong Jing received the signal. A grin spreading across his face. Now, please call me Captain Pirate. I will create a miracle of solo combat, seizing an entire faster-than-light spacecraft all by myself. Fong Jing shouted excitedly, simultaneously pressing the start button. Heavy cavalry, full-speed assault mode. Target locked, nozzles engaging. The sound of mechanical clicks echoed. Behind the heavy cavalry, the entire engine unit adjusted its angle. Then, a blinding azure light erupted from the nozzles. The super-heavy armor flew low to the ground at an unbelievable speed, charging directly towards the airlock of the Prometheus spacecraft. Mission objective, take down the Prometheus. Feeling the adrenaline rush, Fong Jing's smile grew increasingly unrestrained. With the equipment of this research vessel, how could he possibly lose? How could he lose? Inside the cockpit of the Prometheus, the captain suddenly fell silent, staring blankly at the surveillance of the backup room alongside Vickers. They watched as 5 drone-like machines swaggered into the backup room, connecting to the spacecraft's database and beginning to hack in. Clearly, they were being completely disregarded. What filled them with even more despair was that the Prometheus's onboard systems detected a massive heat source approximately 10 kilometers away, advancing towards them at escape velocity. It was evident that these drones were merely an appetizer. Vickers' pupils constricted slightly as he despaired. This is the real intruder. Vickers, what means do we have to stop their assault? The captain was unwilling to sit idly by. He wanted to retaliate and make the invader pay a price. Unfortunately, the control system has already been compromised, and this is just a research vessel. We aren't equipped with any weapons, Vickers replied with a bitter smile. The Prometheus program by the Villain Corporation was pushed forward without military approval. Furthermore, humanity had never encountered invaders in the nearby star regions. Therefore, research vessels and transport ships typically did not carry onboard weapons. This was also why the research team acted so recklessly, lacking a sense of crisis. They had never faced such danger. Damn it. Hearing Vickers' response, the captain slammed his fist on the table in frustration. They could only watch helplessly. Damn it. The enemy had already breached the airlock. They were powerless to stop it. Vickers closed his eyes in despair. The enemy had boarded the ship. In the airlock, Fong Jing charged in, braving the storm. His heavy cavalry could withstand this level of tempest. At this moment, he was the king of the storm, facing the tempest. The Prometheus officially welcomed its new master. The pitch-black steel giant stepped into the airlock amidst the swirling sand. Meanwhile, Dr. Xiao and others, blocked outside the backup room by the drones, turned pale and looked back. At that moment, a sense of danger flashed through Dr. Xiao's mind. She suddenly recalled a classic phrase she had said when disembarking. This is a research mission. We do not need to carry weapons. Now, watching the heavy cavalry stride in and seal the entire airlock, Dr. Xiao felt a deep sense of irony. Scientific research missions do not require weapons. How naive one can be. Fong Jing rushed into the airlock of the Prometheus, immediately closing the hatch. The raging storm was isolated outside the door. Then, without paying any attention to the startled Dr. Xiao and others, he directly followed the data report to a location inside the cabin. Without hesitation, he raised his gun and fired a round from the electromagnetic rifle. Bang! The damage was confirmed, and the intelligence system was taking over the ship's control system. High-end hackers often only need the most straightforward means of intrusion. Was the intelligence system in Fong Jing's hands having a back and forth with the Prometheus? And was it slightly at a disadvantage? No problem. He would handle it personally and blow up the ship's database with one shot. The intelligence system on the Prometheus immediately collapsed. After doing all this, holding the smoothly designed rifle and with sparks flying above his head, Fong Jing slowly walked in front of the group. His massive steel body stood before them like a towering mountain, exuding an overwhelming presence. Coldly staring at Dr. Xiao and the others, Fong Jing said sternly, "Now, this ship belongs to me." Chapter 166. A child of one's own is truly beautiful. Dr. Xiao, Charlie, and the others thought the surprises for today were already overwhelming. However, they never expected that the heavens had more in store, delivering such a huge shock. At this moment, in the airlock of the Prometheus, there stood a towering figure clad in sleek black metal armor, holding a smooth electromagnetic rifle, emitting sounds they couldn't understand. In front of this being, they felt as powerless as little chicks. Just moments ago, this thing had effortlessly closed the airlock door of the Prometheus with sheer force, as easily as pulling shut the door of its own home. But that was not the end. While Dr. Xiao and the others were still in a daze, trying to comprehend what Fong Jing had just said, David reacted. With a look of astonishment, he exclaimed, "Chinese? Did you just speak Chinese?" This was also why Fong Jing spoke directly in Chinese. He wanted to take the opportunity to probe into the situation of this world, particularly regarding the country of Hua. It was truly astonishing. David, in disbelief, murmured to himself. Ever since the Veland Corporation led humanity into the interstellar era, the entire world has been dominated by Europe and America. I have only learned about this in the database, passed down to the present day. David responded to Fong Jing in Chinese. His pronunciation was very standard, even more so than Fong Jing's, proving his identity as a bioengineered human. However, from his tone, Fong Jing also gleaned the plight of the country of Hua in this world. Subsequently, his tone grew increasingly cold. "You tell them that this ship is now under my control. If they don't want to die, have all the awakened crew members come to the airlock, including that Vix. I already know her escape pod's location. Tell her to behave, or I will shoot straight through her." The situation has become somewhat clear. Next, there will be good results for these crew members. "May I ask who you are?" David was very cautious, looking at Fong Jing with a keen gaze. "You talk too much." Fong Jing coldly aimed his gun at David. The meaning was clear. "Yes." David took a step back, immediately turned around, and shouted in English at the crew, including the captain and Vix in the cockpit. "David, what did you just say to him? Are you speaking a foreign language?" Dr. Xiao, quite rashly, reached out and snatched the bag containing the engineer's head. "Is he trying to take over the Prometheus?" Charlie sounded incredulous, as if he believed this was impossible. Clearly, that was the case. David shrugged, glanced at Fong Jing and the weapons on either side of him, and whispered, "Now you have no choice but to comply. Vix, Captain, if you want to live, you'd better come down quickly." The opponent's weaponry, while unable to penetrate the ship's exterior, has no such protection in the interior of the Prometheus. There was silence on board. Dr. Xiao and the others were stunned, and Vix and the others did not respond. Seeing no one answering, Fong Jing, wearing a simultaneous interpreter, coldly smirked. Without hesitation, he raised the electromagnetic rifle in his hand, adjusted the power to 35, aimed sideways, and directly pulled the trigger. Whoosh! This shot was specifically loaded with high-strength polymer metal bullets, meant to penetrate the ship's hull. The bullet fired with no visible trace. Suddenly, intense sparks erupted from the top of the airlock chamber, followed by a loud explosion. The sound of metal clashing echoed throughout the airlock chamber. Dr. Xiao and the others screamed, fearfully retreating. The gun, the electromagnetic rifle pointed at them, was more intimidating than anything else. The kinetic energy, if the bullet didn't spin, would pierce them in half. If it did spin, they would be ground into a mush. Either way, it meant death. "David, tell them I'm not joking. You have one more chance." After firing, Fong Jing immediately aimed the electromagnetic rifle at them. "Yes, sir. I will repeat your words immediately." David glanced at the top of the airlock chamber, and then quickly repeated what he had just said. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, the captain and Vix exchanged silent glances. The invader's shot had penetrated half of the Prometheus, almost hitting the power chamber. "Vix, we have to go down. There is no other choice." A hint of despair flashed across Vix's face. Perhaps coming to this planet was a mistake, a complete mistake. 15 minutes later, the two, dressed in protective suits, arrived at the airlock chamber. Thus, all the awakened crew members of the Prometheus had gathered. David, help me tie them up and stuff them into the armored vehicle. By the way, you and Dr. Xiao leave the manual bag where it is." Fong Jing smirked slightly and raised the weapon in his hand. "Yes." David continued to translate, as usual. "You." Dr. Xiao was somewhat angry. "Dear, quickly put down that damn bag." Charlie, fearing the intruder might actually shoot, stopped Dr. Xiao, snatched the bag away, and placed it on the ground. Subsequently, under Fong Jing's watch, the group was tied up and shoved into an armored vehicle. After completing this, to prevent David from playing tricks, Fang Jing directly used the high-temperature ion flow of the heavy cavalry to seal off all exits of the armored vehicle. In addition, he locked David in another armored vehicle alone. After doing all this, Fang Jing clicked his tongue. What a pity. If only Dr. Xiao had been a bit more arrogant just now, or even resisted, he would have had an excuse to shoot directly. What a shame, what a shame. With a sigh, he turned to look at the backup cabin, his eyes flashing with an uncontrollable excitement. This was a superluminal spacecraft. No, he couldn't act recklessly yet. He had to completely control this ship. Fang Jing took a deep breath, ensuring both armored vehicles were within his line of sight while controlling the drone to enter the backup cabin. The backup cabin closed and pressurized. The drone entered the Prometheus. Without saying a word, he controlled the drone straight to the main system of the Prometheus. Inserting the data disk, he began hacking in. Data reading in progress. Progress at 56, loading 63, loading. Watching the rapidly rising progress bar, Fang Jing couldn't help but grin widely. This time, he truly made history, capturing an entire spaceship single-handedly. This achievement could be bragged about for a lifetime. This was something that could leave Zhou Gu dumbfounded after reading the battle report. What on earth, he brought back a whole spaceship? Overjoyed, Fang Jing glanced around the entire airlock chamber. The ship looked better and better. More and more pleasing to the eye. Oh, it was about to become a part of his family. No wonder it looked so good. Chapter 167. No sense of crisis on the Prometheus. In the airlock chamber and the armored vehicle, Vix and others sat across from each other, looking at one another in disbelief. They never expected to encounter such a situation. Scientific exploration actually faced danger. What should we do now? Dr. Xiao was somewhat indignant. She was still thinking about that engineer's head. Suddenly, she remembered something and turned to ask the captain, hopeful. Captain, can you remotely control the ship to lure out the intruder, and then we can escape immediately? I don't think that's a good idea, the captain shrugged, sitting helplessly on the soft seat of the armored vehicle. Dr. Xiao, our ship's intelligent program has already been largely compromised. Now, this ship has probably completely fallen out of our control. We can only wait for our fate. The captain's answer was hopeless. Just wait to die? Cursing under her breath. Dr. Xiao and Charlie covered their heads, feeling quite anxious. However, their anxiety was of no use. The external environment had completely defeated the entire intelligence system of the ship, based on Fang Jing's proactive sabotage of the Prometheus's computer. The hacking was completed, and the intelligent program had been replaced by Sanjia. The Prometheus was in the process of changing its binding permissions to Fang Jing, and the binding was successful. With a crisp notification sound coming through the headset, a strange mechanical voice echoed throughout the airlock chamber. Welcome aboard, Captain Fang Jing. This is Sanjia. Please give your instructions. Hearing this voice, Fang Jing twisted his neck and smiled broadly. The ship had been successfully taken over. From now on, the Prometheus would have a new name. Meanwhile, in the armored vehicle, upon hearing this unfamiliar voice, Vix turned pale, even though she couldn't understand the content. She realized something. The ship had completely changed ownership. It was all over. Vix murmured to herself, her face pale as she leaned on the seat. Having lost control of the ship, their chances of victory were even slimmer. They could only pray that the intruder wouldn't do anything to them. Just as Vix was thinking this, there was a loud bang, and a fist-sized hole was blasted into the side of their armored vehicle, followed by something being thrown inside. A concussion grenade. Boom. A dull explosion sounded. And then Vix was engulfed in darkness. She lost consciousness completely. Not just her, but everyone in the armored vehicle was knocked out. Outside, Fang Jing remained expressionless. He aimed to eliminate all distractions, including these crew members and that bioengineered individual, David. After sealing the hole in the armored vehicle, controlling the vehicle's program, he opened the airlock. Fang Jing controlled both armored vehicles, driving them out of the Prometheus. Once at a safe distance, he pulled out the machine gun from his left side and unhesitatingly pulled the trigger. The wheels of both armored vehicles were completely destroyed, rendering them immobile. His aim had not faltered, hitting the target directly. With a satisfied smirk, Fang Jing shouted at the Prometheus, "Close the airlock and send out 2 drones. Weapons should target the 2 armored vehicles and fire immediately if there's any movement." The Sanjia intelligence system received the order and was executing it. The drones flew out immediately, positioning their gun barrels firmly on the 2 armored vehicles. Having done all this, an ordinary person would prepare to dismount from the heavy cavalry armor to check the spoils. However, Fang Jing was different. He was truly a person of caution. He still had one last step to take, deploying the drones to search the entire ship for any threats. Only after confirming there were no dangers would he emerge from his protective shell. If there had been enough space inside the ship, he would have certainly brought the heavy cavalry in. The drones searched thoroughly for potential threats, which was already a compromise. After half an hour of confirming that there were no dangers aboard the ship, Fang Jing finally entered the backup room. After pressurizing, he officially stepped out of the heavy cavalry armor with a rifle in hand. The location was the medical bay on the ship, and the target was the human gene samples inside. Dismounting from the heavy cavalry, Fang Jing carried his gun and quickly entered the interior of the spaceship under the cover of drones. Without support after leaving the heavy cavalry, his sense of security was low, so he aimed for a swift resolution. This mission was to obtain human genetic samples from the medical room on the spaceship. Fang Jing remembered Dr. Cyril's words. The genetic information hinted at by the mysterious machine should belong to humans, but rather, it was designed by the creators. Therefore, what opened the spatial door must be the genetic samples of the humans from this place. At the very least, they should be the genetic samples of the engineers. Now, aboard this spaceship, everything was prepared. He would first retrieve the human genetic samples, then turn back to collect the genetic material from the engineer's head that he had deliberately isolated in the airlock. This would be perfect. With both samples in hand, he was confident he could achieve the strongest start in history. On his first visit, he would open the spatial door, carrying his rifle. He cautiously arrived at the medical room, plugged in the storage device, and while reading the data, Fong Jing took several portable devices with him. After completing these tasks, he hurried back to the backup cabin, re-entered the heavy cavalry, and returned to the airlock. Fong Jing carefully opened the bag. Inside was a head. This head bore at least a 90 resemblance to a human, the only notable difference being its significantly larger size. This was the engineer. In the alien world, the creator of humanity was also its devil. Because all the engineer ships docked at LV-233 had Earth as their destination. They were not going to meet their creations, but to destroy humanity. The biological weapons aboard the engineer ships were meant for the annihilation of humans. Annihilate humanity, the engineers? Fong Jing squinted his eyes and inserted the device directly into the head. The DNA reading began. Speaking of which, the universe in the alien world is unexpectedly vast. Humans have been able to mine in the core star regions of the galaxy using faster-than-light spacecraft. At this level, it was surprising that they had never encountered other intelligent life. Here, Fong Jing had reason to doubt. Could it be that other intelligent civilizations in nearby star systems had basically been wiped out by the engineers? Yes, it was very likely. So, does that mean the humans in this world had been living in a civilizational vacuum? With this thought, Fong Jing finally understood. There was a reason why people in the alien world were so reckless. Having lived in a greenhouse for hundreds of years without ever encountering danger, it was no wonder they had lost their sense of crisis. Not having a sense of crisis was good. Without a sense of crisis, there was an opportunity to exploit. Chapter 168. Interstellar dust cloud, 2 light-years away in this universe, at the Western Mountain Base. Inside and outside the extermination room, Zhou Yuan and others were highly tense, quietly awaiting Fong Jing's return. For hours had passed, and there were still 2 hours left until the heavy cavalry's oxygen ran out. Glancing at his tactical watch, a hint of worry appeared on Zhou Yuan's face. He is now worried that Fong Jing has crossed over to the candidate planet of a certain interstellar exploration project. If time behaves differently there, with 1 hour on the planet equating to several years here, it could lead to serious problems. Or perhaps he might encounter some danger. Zhou Yuan's mind was racing with thoughts, feeling somewhat anxious. There are still 2 hours to go. Zhou Gu, don't worry too much. Fong Jing is someone you personally trained. Have confidence in him. Sun Wang reassured his captain beside him. Of course, I have confidence in him, but that is a new world. Zhou Yuan exhaled and bit his molars. Fong Jing had become a comrade he trusted with his life. Under the Xishan base, the decontamination room and the new world were their battlegrounds. How could he not worry about a comrade facing the battlefield alone as the captain? Zhou Yuan, be careful. Fluctuations in the space of the decontamination room have been detected. Fong Jing might be coming back. Suddenly, Zhao Guangyao from the monitoring room spoke up. Regarding Fong Jing's crossing over, the current technology cannot study the method of crossing and the spatial gateway at all. However, scientists have discovered that there are subtle changes in gravity near the spatial gateway. Using this method, the Xishan base can now roughly predict whether Fong Jing is returning. Sure enough, in the next moment, a huge steel giant suddenly appeared near Zhou Yuan. Fong Jing had really come back. Armor intact. Fong Jing, please respond. Zhou Yuan called out urgently a couple of times. Seeing that Fong Jing did not respond, he rushed to the heavy cavalry and forcibly opened it using preset procedures. With a series of mechanical sounds, a human-shaped hatch appeared on the heavy cavalry. Zhou Yuan approached and focused, realizing that Fong Jing was actually unconscious. Let me do it. Sun Wang dashed in front of Fong Jing. His exoskeleton was integrated with the entire medical station, making him a mobile medical unit. Rushing to Fong Jing, he conducted an emergency check. In the anxious gaze of Zhou Yuan and others, he finally let out a heavy sigh. Just like before, he had fainted. But all other bodily functions were fine, there was no viral invasion, and the immune system was normal. Hearing this, Zhou Yuan finally relaxed. At the same time, something stirred in his heart. Fainting? It is well known that Fong Jing only faints under 2 circumstances when there is no issue. Either he has opened a new world, or he can open a spatial gateway. Opening a new world was nearly impossible since he had just returned from one. Therefore, the only possibility left was that he could open a spatial gateway. But this was only the first time going to the new world. Did he directly open a spatial gateway? Not only Zhou Yuan realized this, but also Zhao Guangyao, Zhu Lao, and even Zhou Zhen knew it. This new world might exceed their imagination. For hours in, and he directly opened a spatial gateway. This new world is more intriguing than we thought. After confirming that Fong Jing was fine, Zhu Lao raised his eyebrows. Hee, I am looking forward to it as well, Zhou Zhe said with a soft smile. After the stabilization of the Kyushu world, the entire Kyushu world has become the strongest support in this universe. The 237 project saw Zhou Zhejiang being directly invited by an elder. The alliance of 2 worlds and 3 nations gives them the courage to face any difficulties. After Fong Jing read the DNA data of the engineer from the instrument, He disinfected the heavy cavalry shell without hesitation. Then, he transmitted back to this universe from the backup chamber. As soon as his feet touched the ground, a familiar feeling of faintness emerged. In the darkness, Fong Jing arrived at a place he could not be more familiar with. In the pitch black, a pure white light flickered in the distance. That was the location of the machine that enabled Fong Jing's traversal. As he approached slowly, Fong Jing clearly saw two large red dots on the machine, connected in a straight line. Next to the first large red dot, there was a small red dot, resembling a branch splitting from a trunk. This represented the world of the Wandering Earth and the world of Resident Evil. Just as Fong Jing focused his gaze on this, the scene immediately changed. At the far end of the two large red dots, another equally large white dot appeared, which should represent the new world. Moreover, at the same time, next to the large red dot representing the alien world, a small white dot unexpectedly appeared. This also represented another world. So, the pattern of worlds appearing from the machine is a combination of one large and one small. What does this signify? Fong Jing widened his eyes. His consciousness focused on the small white dot parallel to the alien world. A planet's location appeared in Fong Jing's mind. On this planet, he saw many intelligent beings resembling the heads of engineers, dressed in linen like those in ancient Athens, coming and going endlessly. At the same time, this planet had lush green mountains and waters, with stone buildings rising majestically, creating a spectacular scene. Seeing this, Fong Jing recalled that this was the planet from Alien Covenant. It was inhabited by engineers and ultimately decimated by biological weapons. It was also the planet where David created the alien using Dr. Shaw. As the images in his mind ended, Fong Jing realized that the way to access that small white dot world was to go to that planet. This would take some time, so he decided to see what requirements the large white dot had. Fong Jing was not in a hurry. The vast alien world was waiting for him to explore. He first wanted to see what the large white dot had to say. Saying this, he directed his consciousness to the large white dot. The next moment, a scene appeared in his mind. It was in this universe, where Fong Jing saw a cloud of interstellar dust, and he had a vague sense that it was about 2 light years away from Earth. The image ended here. Good. The large white dot is saying something good. The next step after the orbit of Jupiter is directly to the interstellar dust cloud 2 light years away, right? 2 light years. It takes light 2 years to reach there. Fong Jing truly felt it was outrageous. This distance was just too great. However, he suddenly thought that in the new world, wasn't there a case where I single-handedly captured a faster-than-light spaceship? Not only that, he vaguely remembered that on planet LV-233, there were many ships from the engineer race, right? It seemed to be a fleet. If I could master a faster-than-light spaceship, covering 2 light years wouldn't be a problem at all. Wouldn't that be perfect? Fong Jing came to this realization and was instantly overjoyed. Even if it took a long time to master, isn't there still the help of the Jojo Group? If necessary, I can find a way to return to Earth in the alien universe and steal from the people of a certain company. After all, the boss of that company is currently in my hands. Once this thought crossed his mind, Fong Jing felt that the alien world was truly a treasure. It was simply a windfall. Chapter 169. Are you sure you're not joking? In this universe, at the Shishan base, underground, Fong Jing woke up. As soon as he awoke and felt the soft mattress beneath him, he realized he had been sent to the activity chamber in the disinfection room. Sure enough, when he opened his eyes and saw Zhou Yuan standing at a distance, he breathed a huge sigh of relief. You're awake. How do you feel? Although Sun Wang and Wu Shi checked you thoroughly, that thing was so strange. There might be some after effects, Zhou Yuan said. I'm fine, brother Zhou, don't worry. Fong Jing replied, lying on the bed. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something. His eyes lit up, and he sprang up with a nimble movement. Feeling energetic. Looking at Zhou Yuan, he grinned widely, almost stretching his mouth to his ears. Good to see you're okay. Zhou Yuan raised an eyebrow at Fong Jing's odd behavior. What does this kid want to do? Of course, I'm fine, haha. Shrugging and laughing arrogantly, Fong Jing raised his head and casually said, Brother Zhou, the weather is nice today. How did you know I single-handedly hijacked a faster-than-light spaceship? Huh. Zhou Yuan's jaw dropped, leaning against the wall and nearly stumbling. His face filled with confusion. What did you say? Single-handedly hijacked a faster-than-light spaceship? His voice was filled with disbelief as Zhou Yuan widened his eyes, pointed at Fong Jing, and then thought about the size of a faster-than-light spaceship. Fong Jing, single-handedly, hijacked a faster-than-light spaceship. Is this reasonable? Is this possible? Is there any law left? Zhou Yuan was completely stunned. No, what are you talking about? In the monitoring room, Zhao Guangyao and others saw that Fong Jing had awakened and were initially happy, waiting for him to rest well and discuss the situation in the new world. Elder Zhu was still contemplating inviting experts over for thorough discussions on the next steps. However, they suddenly heard Fong Jing's words. Single-handedly hijacked a faster-than-light spaceship? Faster-than-light spaceship? Zhang Guangyao had just relaxed and taken a sip of water, but was so shocked that he spat it out. What did I just hear? Elder Zhu and Zhou Zhe exchanged glances, both filled with disbelief. They couldn't be blamed for their reaction. Anyone who hears this news would react the same way. In the decontamination room, the air felt frozen, and Zhou Yuan's raised hand stayed suspended for a long time. He stared at Fong Jing, his jaw dropped. Blinking his eyes as he repeated, Are you serious? Of course I'm serious, it's the real deal. Fong Jing chuckled, performing a Wing Chun stance, and added, Not only that. The new world can already open the spatial gate. What a surprise. This was truly a surprise. The gains from the new world exceeded everyone's expectations. Not only could they open the spatial gate on the first try, but they also hijacked a spaceship right at the start. After Fang Jing explained the details of the new world to Zhou Yuan's eyes narrowed, feeling a sense of admiration. Wow, it's exactly as he said. This isn't just a single soldier hijacking a faster-than-light spaceship. This is seizing a planetary spaceship. In the monitoring room, as Fang Jing recounted the events, old Zhu's face lit up with joy, and he laughed heartily. Ha ha, great. The Prometheus and the fleet of the engineer tribe, including biological weapons. This harvest is truly unprecedented. This indeed was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Beside him, Zhou Ji nodded continuously. The node universe had just begun to emerge from Earth. And now the new world had directly delivered a faster-than-light spaceship. A faster-than-light spaceship. With this, the mountain-moving plan wouldn't even have passed. Soon, Earth could build large spaceships, going to whichever planet they wanted, escaping however they wished. Watching Fang Jing chatting comfortably with Zhou Yuan on the surveillance video, Zhou Ji showed a complex expression. But it was only for a moment before he regained his composure. No matter how one looked at it, they had completely broken free from the solar crisis. Old Zhou, we'll need your help this time. With our technology, reversing the faster-than-light spaceship is as difficult as climbing to the sky. Old Zhu turned to Zhou Ji, speaking sincerely. This discovery is something this universe can't handle, and there's no need to monopolize it. Let the Jiuzhou world help digest it, sharing technology. Wouldn't that be more profitable? Although we don't have complete confidence. Zhou Ji let out a breath, smiling slightly, and nodded at old Zhu, saying, but we will do our utmost. I'll go back now and gather the top scientists from around the Jiuzhou world. The Jiuzhou world has a huge advantage compared to this universe. There are no foreign nationals at all. Therefore, some matters don't need to be kept secret. For example, Zhou Ji boldly announced information from the other world to the entire globe and mobilized all resources to gather the world's top scientists. But this universe can't do that. They have to act in secrecy for such matters. This is also the reason why Zhu Lao places great importance on the 9 provinces world. This logistical work must be handled by the 9 provinces world. In this universe, new worlds are emerging, and the 9 provinces world will crack the technology. Then move forward together, taking off together. I entrust these matters to you. Our scientists will follow up on this side as well. Zhu Lao sent Zhou Zhiji off, and a smile finally crept up at the corners of his mouth. This time, the nation is truly about to take off. As long as we can manage the superluminal spacecraft, the Eastern Power can completely become a space-level civilization. Just imagine, a cross-galaxy Republic of Huaxia. What a sight that would be. At that time, the solar system will be the capital star system. I can't even begin to imagine. Xiao Zhao, hurry up the engineering team. The buffer chamber for the new world must be built quickly. A gentle smile appeared on Zhu Lao's face. And he murmured, is there still a living engineer? Intelligent extraterrestrial beings. How rare. Indeed something worth studying thoroughly. The alien world has great potential. Human civilization that can roam the entire galaxy is quite difficult to deal with. He accessed the alien files from the computer, and Zhu Lao furrowed his brows. He certainly doesn't think of the beings in the alien world as fools. They have just been living in a vacuum for too long without encountering danger. Once awakened, the fierce side of humanity will resurface. Therefore, the upcoming plan must be approached with extreme caution. However, Zhu Lao already has a rough idea of the specific plan. In the original work, the planet in the alien contract is very suitable as a base. However, even with superluminal travel, it will take 3 years. This matter cannot be rushed. At present, there is only one strategy. Gather resources, build strong defenses, and take time to establish dominance. First, we must establish a foothold in the alien world. Chapter 170. Let me show you what caution looks like. On the planet LV-233 of the alien world, inside the armored vehicle, Dr. Xiao and others are feeling extremely anxious. They have awakened. However, upon realizing their current situation, they are filled with despair. Not only have they been exiled from the Prometheus by the invaders, but to make matters worse, the 2 who had originally gone missing in the alien ruins are also in danger, facing peril. Indeed, it is the 2 who got lost in the ruins during the storm and couldn't return in time. Perhaps the storm outside has calmed down a bit. At this moment, the radio in the armored vehicle picked up a signal from the missing duo. Listening to the screams on the radio, everyone fell silent. Their hearts filled with dread. Damn it, it has wrapped around my arm. Get it off quickly. Ah, you're making it worse. It's getting tighter. My arm is going to break. Cut it off quickly. Calm down. ZZZZ. Ah, help. The radio signal was completely cut off at this point. Damn it, Milburn and Field are in trouble. The captain shouted angrily. These 2 fools. Under normal circumstances, getting lost with a map would be one thing. But now, something has actually happened. This is a real mess. They are now waiting for 2 people to come and rescue them. It seems like the Prometheus is facing total annihilation. Bang! With a loud slap on the chair. Despair was the only expression left on Vix's face. What on earth is going on? Look at the kind of people her father has brought along. Acting independently and getting lost in the ruins? Is this something a planetary exploration team should be doing? Rubbing her temples, Vix was filled with regret. She shouldn't have followed this group of misfits. Dr. Xiao slumped in her chair, gazing blankly through the armored vehicle's glass at the distant ruins. This was her dreamland. The place to find the creators of humanity. However, she never expected it could also become her final resting place. Just as she sighed alone, the ground suddenly trembled slightly. This tremor caught her attention. Looking up to check the source, Dr. Zhao's pupils widened in shock as she exclaimed, "Oh my gosh, look, what is that?" "What?" The crew in the armored vehicle crowded by the glass, following Dr. Zhao's gaze. In that direction, through the glass, they could see the airlock of the Prometheus. At that moment, everyone was stunned. The airlock was open. Tanks, camouflaged and equipped with electromagnetic turrets, were rushing out of the cabin at an extraordinary speed. As they drove off the ramp and onto the ground, the heavy main battle tanks kicked up clouds of dust. This was not just one or two vehicles. There were at least more than 20 heavy tanks, along with infantry fighting vehicles, self-propelled artillery, vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, and countless other vehicles. This was a combined battalion. The dust enveloped the glass of Dr. Zhao's armored vehicle. Inside, everyone was dumbfounded, recalling the scene they had just witnessed. The captain, looking bewildered, asked Vix, "Do we have this equipment on our ship?" "I had no idea." Vix was equally confused. How could their small research vessel carry these kinds of equipment? She was completely stunned. Where did all this equipment come from? Outside the Prometheus, a heavy combined battalion was building defensive positions. "Quick, construct the long-range artillery positions. Let the tank units advance. Armored vehicles follow up. Follow up. Radar vehicle, scan. Reinforce with satellites. Reinforce with satellites." The armored combined battalion consisted of 28 electromagnetic main battle tanks, 35 infantry fighting vehicles, over 80 various armored vehicles, and 26 vertical takeoff and landing heavy lift aircraft. Additionally, there were 6 heavy cavalry and 40 elite infantry soldiers in heavy exoskeletons. A small torrent of steel, no, a small stream of steel, was surging out. The mechanical sound of tank treads and the whistling of heavy lift aircraft echoed in the air, rising and falling like a symphony. In the distance, a launch vehicle carrying an emergency satellite shot straight up into the sky. The LV-233 map was gradually lighting up because of the satellite's presence. Following the radar vehicle, Fang Jing and others watched the convoy stirring up clouds of dust, feeling a surge of ambition in their hearts. It was an all-dimensional, joint landing operation. "All right, we've secured this area. Let's start constructing the supply station." The smart screen in Zhou Yuan's hand displayed that the tanks had advanced at least 10 kilometers, while heavy lift aircraft were conducting patrols in all directions. With the area secured, the next step was to build the supply station. Trucks were coming down from the deck of the Prometheus. Automated photosynthesis factories, oxygen concentrators, and filters were being unloaded. Finally, the engineers were entering the scene. They needed to construct a comprehensive base in the shortest time possible. Supply food had to be fully disinfected before being brought into the comprehensive base. Next to Zhou Yuan, the commander of the synthetic battalion, Cheng Yuan, solemnly notified all commanders and squad leaders. According to current intelligence, there were fleets of an engineering race on LV-233, along with a large number of biological weapons. Attention, these biological weapons are targeted at humans. Without permission, no one is allowed to make contact. You do not have exploration missions. Hold your positions. If you notice any abnormal situations, do not hesitate to call in the air support and deal with it. The heavy lift aircraft were equipped with high-temperature plasma jet systems, capable of reaching distances of several kilometers, with temperatures soaring into the millions. Such high temperatures would melt even silicon-based life forms. "Understood, Commander. We will report immediately." The squad leaders responded in the communication channel. "Notify all units. The highest epidemic prevention requirements are in effect. Each person must be tested daily, and data must be submitted to the database." Cheng Yuan issued the order sternly. "All operations in this alien world, on this alien planet, proceed with utmost caution. Logistics, supplies, epidemic prevention, air defense, positions, soil testing, long-range fire, aerial forces, and space surveillance. Not a single aspect can be neglected." Furthermore, after securing this area, the aircraft unleashed high-temperature plasma jets, crazily scorching the ground. With temperatures reaching millions, the soil was directly burned and turned into lava, and this was just the beginning. In the future, all the controlled land would need to be burned and melted by such high temperatures. On this basis, foundations would be laid, heavy metal plates would be installed, and densely covered life detectors would be set up. Only then would it meet the safety requirements set by the experts of the 237 plan, which were a mere 1% of safety standards. Indeed, 1%. Chapter 171, A Fleet. In the alien world, on the LV-233 planet, in the valley. After some time, the land within 10 kilometers of the Prometheus had undergone ultra-high temperature disinfection. The originally brown soil was now entirely charred and crystallized. Once this was completed, the commander finally felt reassured to let the engineers come up and start their work. "We have launched a surveying satellite, and now the topographic map of the entire LV-233 planet has been mostly completed. We have marked the problematic locations and potential shipwreck sites." Cheng Yuan shared the data with Fang Jing and another person. When they opened the map, they immediately took a breath of oxygen from their helmets. The densely packed contour map of the planet showed at least 10 marked points. Not just 10, the number was still increasing. Now it was 11. Were these 11 suspected ships of the engineers? Fang Jing blinked. There could be 11 ships. This was far beyond his expectations. He originally thought the engineers' fleet consisted of only 2 ships. In the original story, David mentioned that there were many ships. Fang Jing assumed that 7 or 8 would be the limit. He didn't expect the number to exceed 10. Moreover, this was just the current marking. The storms on LV-233 were too intense, obscuring many areas, and they didn't have time to use synthetic aperture radar. This was the unfortunate situation at present. A high-resolution synthetic aperture radar satellite was on its way here. Once it arrived and could penetrate the cloud layers, these hiding spots of the ships would naturally be revealed. Conservatively estimating, there would be at least 20 or more. Qing Yuan's expression was a mix of joy and worry. 20. Fang Jing was excited and said, at least 20 or more. If there are no issues with the ships, we can directly form a fleet. More than 20 ships of the engineer race. He was practically landing and picking up a fleet. Moreover, these were all faster-than-light ships, definitely an interstellar fleet. But it wouldn't be that simple. Most of these ships, like the ones here, had likely been abandoned, and there might even be biological weapon leaks. We must proceed with caution in our investigations. This was Qing Yuan's concern. At least more than 20 ships. Their conditions varied, and if they were to explore next, a more detailed plan would need to be developed. Indeed, there was no rush. Safety had to be ensured. Fang Jing thought of the items in the Prometheus airlock, the biological weapons from the engineer race that David brought back, and the head of the engineer that Dr. Xiao had retrieved, had all been placed in a sealed chamber. A sealed chamber with more than 10 layers. Additionally, the entire airlock had undergone multiple rounds of high-temperature sterilization. When dealing with alien worlds and the engineer race, one must adhere to the highest standards. Any reckless behavior could lead to uncontrollable tragedies. The temporary detention facility has been established. Just then, the engineering team sent a message. The temporary detention facility for the crew of the Prometheus had been completed. Great, let's take them in. By the way, that bioweapon human, David, should be under maximum security and isolated. Even though there was a plan, Qing Yuan still reminded them again. Understood. The soldier in charge of the escort responded with a sound. Then joked, Engineer brothers, we've made a holding place for this individual that's like a fully metallic, seamless safe that can only be opened from the outside. Unless this individual can defy the odds, there's no way out. He added, got it. Focus on your work and stay alert. The communication ended. Upon hearing the conversation between the two, Fang Jing became curious and asked, a fully metallic, seamless safe that can only be opened from the outside? What does that look like? Qing Yuan shook his smart terminal and sent a picture to Fang Jing, explaining. This is the holding place proposed by the expert group for potential threats. Take a look. Fang Jing received the image, opened it, and raised his eyebrows. Wow. The demonstration picture was taken from inside. The entire room was surrounded by metal, although there were still some gaps. According to the schematic, outside those gaps, there was a layer of gas-sealed chamber. With this individual locked inside, Fang Jing thought that unless he could perform the impossible, he couldn't see any way out. We will treat these guests well, including those still in stasis aboard the spacecraft. Qing Yuan murmured. It had already been decided that all crew members of the spacecraft in stasis would be transferred down to continue their stasis, while those who were awake would be placed into stasis again after the facility was prepared. Only this individual remained. He had a significant and unique purpose. He could operate the spacecraft of the engineers and speak their language. All of this was essential for the 237 plan. Therefore, this individual needed to be preserved well. In the monitoring room of this universe, the leading application physicists from this universe and the 9 provinces world gathered. They were intently observing the video being transmitted back. This video was specifically recorded by soldiers at the energy chamber of the spacecraft. The entire energy chamber had been documented. In the video, there was a massive, unidentified cavity at the center of the energy chamber. Old Xing, can you make any sense of this? An elderly man with silver hair asked. Looking puzzled, Old Xing was one of the chief designers of the fusion engine during the Wandering Earth project. Upon hearing him speak, everyone present stopped their discussions, eager to hear the insights of this expert. Old Xing, with eyes as deep as lakes, scrutinized the cavity in the video repeatedly, furrowing his brows. After a long moment, he slowly shook his head and sighed. The video doesn't reveal much. Superluminal travel is beyond our current industrial understanding. Even if we had the object in front of us, it would be impossible to reverse engineer it at this time. If we want to make progress. Old Xing's expression softened as he continued. The urgent task now is to reasonably dismantle the spacecraft and bring it here so we can understand its principles and attempt to mimic reverse engineering. Directly reverse engineering a superluminal spacecraft. Even with 3 times the courage, I couldn't say that. The urgent task is to first understand the principles of faster-than-light spacecraft. And then, based on the dismantled structure of the ship, simulate what it would look like. The elderly man with silver hair sighed and said helplessly, for now, this is all we can do. Fortunately, it is said that there are many spacecraft. Dismantling a few won't cause much impact. However, cracking the faster-than-light technology, or even reversing it, is a long and arduous journey. Chapter 172. Why is your mechanical dog still playing by the rules? In the alien world, near the Prometheus, the dormant camp has been fully established. All members still in stasis on the ship are being transferred there, including Peter Villander, the largest shareholder of the Villander Company. This elderly man holds a significant position in the future plans, so the entire transportation process is carried out with great care, and the stasis pod remains powered throughout. What are we preparing to do next? Standing on the charred land, Fang Jing glanced at Zhou Yuan. Zhou Yuan smiled and pointed at the ruins, whispering, next. We are preparing to explore that ruin while sending a message to the Earth Traffic Control Center of this world. Send a message? Fang Jing frowned. Taking the initiative to contact them? No. Looking at the sly smile on Zhou Yuan's face, Fang Jing suddenly realized. This is a trap. Indeed. The plan is to send a message in the name of Peter Villander. Zhou Yuan squinted his eyes, looking up at the sky, and said, the content of the message is that Villander has discovered an abandoned spacecraft of an alien intelligent civilization at LV-233, and there is no danger here. We request the Villander Company to send relevant experts and scientists for research. Hiss. After hearing the content of the message, Fang Jing realized something. Wait, this is blatant phishing. LV-233 might be humanity's first discovery of an alien intelligent civilization. Moreover, the message states there is no danger, and it is being sent directly from the Prometheus. If the Villander Company on Earth receives this information, they would go crazy, right? Just imagine, in this universe, if an alien ruin were discovered on Mars. What would happen? The first thing those who receive the news would do is keep it confidential and then immediately organize an exploration. The Villander Company would certainly do the same. They would initially hold back from reporting it, then gather various scientists to come and meet with the Prometheus for research. This is inevitable. In the original Alien story, the Villander Company did just that. Otherwise, how did the incident of aliens running rampant come about in 234? The key is, this temptation is simply overwhelming. Alien intelligent beings, spacecraft ruins, the Villander Company is still active, and there is no danger. These 4 pieces of information combined make it irresistible. If it were Fang Jing, he would definitely pilot a ship to come over himself. And for this group of reckless individuals in the alien world, the chance of them rushing over is even higher. When they arrive, this universe will undoubtedly welcome them with open arms. Having figured out the intricacies, Fang Jing's mouth twitched. He was certain that this scheme was concocted by someone from the expert group, and there must be multiple plans in place. At least 70 or 80 backup strategies. This was still mild. Zhou Yuan pressed his hand down, grinning at Fang Jing. Once we bring in the first batch, we will send back some unlit technologies from the alien worlds to attract more people. Fang Jing gave Zhou Yuan a thumbs up, exclaiming, thanks to you, well done. This is all minor stuff, brother Zhou. We're really about to take off. Fang Jing thought of the Jupiter gravitational ship. Wow. This massive spaceship suddenly became the center of attention. Jupiter gravitational, please stop calling me. I'm afraid the superluminal ship might misunderstand. However, to be fair, this plan is indeed interesting. LV-233 will become bait, luring the company to keep sending people here. People from this universe can just sit back and reap the benefits. It said that breaking the superluminal ship is challenging for both this universe and the other region. Once the company's delivery ship arrives, even if the problem solved immediately, at least it will speed things up, right? Fantastic. What does a win-win situation mean? This universe wins twice. That's a win-win. Colonel Zhou, Colonel Fang, the area around the ship has been cleared. Should we proceed with the mission to search the ruins? Just as Zhou Yuan and Fang Jing were chatting, Cheng Yuan's voice suddenly came through the radio. Let us begin. The mission objective this time is to control that engineer and capture the alien. Additionally, the goal for the other life forms on the ship is to capture them all, leave no one behind. Receiving orders, Colonel Zhou. The operation officially begins. Cheng Yuan's voice was resolute as he started issuing specific tasks. The mission to explore the engineer's ship ruins was about to commence. Outside the massive, pyramid-like ruins, several armored vehicles and electromagnetic tanks from the synthetic camp, billowing thick smoke, arrived at the entrance. We have reached the designated location. Electric 3, Sky Communication. Are you in position? Electric 3 is in position. We will provide communication support for the entire area. Satellite Sky Communication is in position. We are observing. On the armored command vehicle, squad leader Zhou Xuhua confirmed that the communication link was fully secured and immediately turned around, shouting, unmanned communication relay, launch immediately. Yes, launching now. At the front of the convoy, an armored vehicle with a square shape suddenly opened its doors halfway. Behind the military green steel, there were densely packed gun barrels. Unmanned communication relay, 6 groups, 48 rounds, launch. Clear, firm, and decisive command sounds rang out. Boom, boom, boom. The cannon of the armored vehicle rapidly ejected spherical relays. These relays, propelled by impact and their own power, swiftly advanced, rushing into the ship's ruins. Once the spherical relays entered the ship's cavity, they immediately spread out according to the programmed distance and began scanning. Inside the ruins of the spacecraft, the communication systems and maps began to activate. This universe does not yet have the technology for naked-eye 3D imaging, so all maps are compiled onto smart terminals. In the command vehicle at the back, Cheng Yuan carefully examined the map. The entire space was circular, and there were closed chambers at some key locations that needed to be opened manually. Now that communication had been established, it was time to take action. The beings from the alien world had become reckless due to their long-term secure environment and low sense of crisis. However, Cheng Yuan and his team were not like that. With orders issued, the operation commenced. As the action began, the command vehicle relayed the start command, and the operator suddenly pulled the lever in his hand. Several armored vehicles with wide rear compartments had their back doors swing open violently. The legs of the mechanical dogs, stacked together and loaded with equipment, quickly retracted and then unfolded, revealing a flashing red light on the monitor. This was not just a single red light. From the front, the cabin was filled with dense red dots, at least 100 of them. Clattering together, the mechanical dogs extended their 4 mechanical legs and rapidly exited the cabin, gathering at the entrance of the ruins. In just 5 minutes, 800 mechanical dogs had assembled. Looking at the scene before him, the mass of mechanical dogs resembled a swarm of ants. Especially since these mechanical dogs were equipped with various devices, they could group together and coordinate effectively. Long-range fire delivery, close combat assault, capture and search, life detection, and fire support. This was the result of a new intelligent program. The mechanical dogs operated in groups. Who could withstand this? Chapter 173. Old Deng, it's time to wake up. Unlike the reckless crew of the Prometheus, Cheng Yuan's synthetic regiment would not charge directly in. In uncertain situations, unmanned devices would go in first. No matter how capable the alien beings were, let them chew on the machines. They could chew as much as they wanted. In this universe, the super production line had enough raw materials to produce 1 mechanical dog per minute. They could chew as much as they wanted. And it wouldn't be a problem until they burst. Within the spacecraft ruins, the army of mechanical dogs grouped in threes and rushed in. 3 mechanical dogs. 1 carried a detector and a laser for scanning. The other 2 were responsible for capture. The capture claws and storage devices were ready. Since the entrance was still a bit small, the 800 mechanical dogs lined up in a long, serpentine formation, looking quite spectacular. Also, light up the interior of that spacecraft for me. In the command vehicle, through the communication relay, Cheng Yuan was somewhat displeased as he looked at the dimly lit interior of the spacecraft. It was so dark. Who were they trying to scare? Orders received and being executed. In the front line, thousands of fist-sized drones flew out like a swarm, densely packed, charging toward the spacecraft ruins. Once inside, the small drones immediately adhered to the inner walls and turned on bright lights. 1,000 large lights were arranged in sequence. Suddenly, the entire interior of the spacecraft was as bright as day. Every puddle, every inner wall is clearly visible. Inside the chamber, the mechanical dogs have begun to move. 800 mechanical dogs are spread out, flexibly searching throughout the entire ship. In a narrow part of the circular chamber, in a small puddle of dark water, 2 slender, snake-like creatures quietly submerged. In the dim light, one might easily overlook them. However, now the entire chamber is as bright as day. The silvery creatures in the water, even without a life detection device, were spotted by the mechanical dog's visual systems. Target organism detected, snake-like, blood highly corrosive. Exercise caution. The mechanical dog responsible for the search stood at a distance, projecting 2 laser points from its forehead directly onto the bodies of the 2 silvery snake-like creatures. The moment it sent out its signal, the surrounding search devices halted. Nearly dozens of other mechanical dogs turned in unison, their red lights flickering slightly. The 2 silvery alien snake creatures, with wing-like heads, were resting in the water. Suddenly, they sensed a very ominous presence. Alert like cobras, their bodies rose, and their wing-like heads opened slightly to warn the intruders in front of them. However, the mechanical dogs showed no interest in the alien snakes. They quickly approached and clamped down on what seemed to be their necks. As it moved, hundreds of mechanical dogs surged forward. The giant pincers clamped down. In an instant, the elongated bodies of the 2 snake creatures had no time to coil and strangle the enemy, as they were straightened out by the numerous pincers of the mechanical dogs. Aside from opening their gaping mouths and emitting hissing sounds, they were completely immobilized. Alien organisms have been captured, currently being secured. The 2 snake creatures were held, bound, their mouths gagged, oxygen supplied, and sealed into a cage. Thus, an alien organism was captured. Outside the ruins, in the command vehicle, Fang Jing was also left dumbfounded. So this is how it can be done. Fang Jing initially believed that exploring the ship's ruins would require caution. But he never expected that the troops would be extraordinarily meticulous. The entire operation was conducted with unmanned devices. The screen was filled with mechanical dogs, going wild, clamping down on anything unusual. After all, they were mechanical dogs. If they were damaged, they could just be replaced. This approach left the alien creatures bewildered. As soon as they showed themselves, a dark mass of mechanical dogs pounced on them, directly straightening their bodies with their pincers, and then keeping them that way, locking them up in a small dark room. Although their blood is highly acidic and capable of corroding most metals, the premise is that the blood has to flow out. This way, they were completely restrained without sustaining any injuries. What should the mechanical dogs do upon finding the remains of the crew from the Prometheus? In the command vehicle, the commander looked at the images reported by the mechanical dogs and inquired about Cheng Yuan. Burn them. These 2 have been killed by alien beings and are now parasitized. Cheng Yuan made a decision in half a second. To be safe, it was best to burn them. All right, the order has been given. The commander nodded and made a motion with his hand. Inside the spaceship ruins, several mechanical dogs surrounded 2 bodies lying in a puddle, standing guard. Suddenly, a mechanical strong dog, equipped with a plasma jet launcher on its back, stepped forward. It reached the bodies and activated the plasma jet. A beam of bluish plasma sprayed onto the bodies. At ultra-high temperatures, the water in the bodies were vaporized in an instant. In 1 second, the 2 bodies were reduced to nothing, not even ashes. Target has been eliminated. Continue searching. The mechanical dogs continued their search. They had thoroughly cleared the entire interior of the spaceship. Every corner had been meticulously scanned. All openings were infiltrated by micro-robots to ensure nothing was missed. Finally, the robots sealed the biological weapons carried on the spaceship. Only then was it time for the ground forces to enter. Attention! The unmanned communicator and mechanical dogs have marked the sleeping position of the engineer. Our task is to secure it. Outside the ruins, the rear door of the armored vehicle opened. A group of 12 assembled. Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan, dressed as heavy cavalry, were among them. However, the two of them couldn't be considered combat personnel, so this team actually consisted of only 10 people, 1 heavy cavalry tank and 9 heavy-duty exoskeletons. There were 3 assault soldiers, 2 fire support, 1 heavy shield, 1 communicator, 1 sniper, and 1 medic. The 10 worked in perfect coordination, quickly advancing in front of Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan. They moved through a corridor filled with mechanical dogs, heading straight for the cockpit. Breach. A command was given. The heavy cavalry and heavy shield led the charge into the cockpit, securing both sides. The assault soldiers followed in. There was no danger in the cockpit. The mechanical dogs were not held hostage. The life detector confirmed there was no issue, and the mechanical dogs reported accurately that 1 engineer was still alive. After breaching the cockpit and fully securing the area, Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan leisurely walked in. In the cockpit, the engineer's sleep pods were arranged in a circular pattern. The engineer who had miraculously survived was located in the farthest corner. Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan, protected by their teammates, approached the sleep pod. Looking at the pod, covered in dust and now unrecognizable, Fang Jing chuckled and murmured, "You've been sleeping for so long. It's time to wake up, old dang." Chapter 174. I just throw a punch, and this is me holding back. Inside the spaceship ruins of the engineer clan, the assault team protected Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan as they approached the only sleep pod with signs of life. The outer shell of the sleep pod, resembling glass, was covered in dust. Zhou Yuan pointed at the glass to clear the dust and take a look inside. The assault team member beside them put down their weapon and, under the cover of their teammates, took over the cleaning equipment. The cleaning device started up, and the glass gradually became clear. At the same time, the engineer lying inside was revealed to a few people. Huge. Upon seeing the engineer, everyone's first impression was that it was large. The engineer species is significantly taller than humans. Compared to humans, they are practically giants. The massive body, with a helmet-like covering, lay quietly. Should we wake this guy up in the cockpit? Zhou Yuan gestured at the engineer's body. Although the heavy cavalry was not afraid, this was the spaceship's cockpit, an enemy territory. It was inevitable that the other side would have some backup. Fang Jing also looked at the captain, suddenly sharing similar concerns. Scholars from the Research Institute guided them to study the engineer's head, noting that the engineer species shares a high genetic similarity with humans, practically being an enlarged version of them. The captain pointed at the stasis pod and explained, the drug response indicates that using a dosage of anesthetic greater than twice that of humans, or a high-voltage current, can render it unconscious. After saying this, he raised the anesthetic gun in his hand. Meanwhile, the heavy shield bearer beside him also raised the electric shock device in hand. Double insurance. If the anesthetic doesn't work, then resort to high voltage. If both of these fail, we will simply break its limbs. The assault team would not hold back against the engineer. There was no psychological pressure at all. I'm not the one you created, am I? Instead, the engineer species harbors significant hostility towards humans. Fang Jing dared to bet a bag of chips that if unarmed and the engineer was awakened, the first to act would definitely be the latter. After all, the situation was clear. In the eyes of the engineer, humans are akin to the creations they guided, similar to robots. So, waking up to find robots causing a ruckus in their home, would you treat robots kindly? David had already recorded the language system of the engineer species as per their request. This language shares a high degree of similarity with human languages, and linguists from the world of JoJo had constructed a real-time translation model. The captain pointed at the earpiece. Fang Jing and the others nodded. While establishing the position, Cheng Yuan was also busy. Following the linguist's requirements, he interrogated David. With the help of JoJo's super quantum computer, he spent an hour constructing the language model of the engineer species. In just an hour, with David's speed, 5,000 basic vocabulary words were no problem at all. As David said a word, the computer directly grouped and recorded it. Now, everything was ready. Time to wake it up. The captain spoke. The heavy cavalry stood at the side and rear of the team, while 2 assault members raised their electromagnetic rifles. The communicator pressed the symbol on the stasis pod, resembling cuneiform. In the next moment, the transparent cover of the stasis pod immediately split open in the middle. The stasis pod was officially activated. Dressed in armor resembling a skeleton and wearing a helmet for assisted breathing, the engineer suddenly moved. It actually sat up directly. The connected tubes were torn apart by its strength. It began to awaken from a slumber lasting over 2,000 years. Removing its helmet, the engineer, with skin as pale as death, sat dazed on one side of the sleep chamber. Soon after, the adverse effects of prolonged hibernation caused it to gag. After the gagging passed, it slowly raised its head. However, what startled it was that upon looking up, it was not facing its kind, but rather a small-bodied human, resembling a dwarf among the engineers. This made its pupils constrict. It used a translator to greet the human. Fang Jing looked at this engineer, noticing its bald head resembling a boiled egg, and nearly burst into laughter. It looked somewhat human, but without hair. The more he looked, the stranger it appeared. Hello. The squad leader activated the translator. Hearing the familiar voice from the device, the engineer was taken aback. It came to its senses and saw the human figure behind the glass. It suddenly raised its hand, preparing to attack. However, just as the attack was about to land, its gaze extended, and it quickly retracted its hand. Because not far away, there were not only tall armored machines standing sideways, but also two individuals holding weapons with thick barrels. Although the engineer believed it could take on 10 humans, it did not think it could withstand such a shot. After all, that was not a mere tickling handgun. It was an electromagnetic rifle. Hello. In alien language, faced with such overwhelming firepower, the engineer surrendered. Its once proud and lofty demeanor completely vanished. A being under the eaves must bow its head. However, its surrender did not mean that the squad leader would let it off the hook. The question of what to do next arose, as they needed to take the human away. But the engineer's attitude was so good that it posed a bit of a dilemma. The planning team hadn't specified what to do when the other party was so cooperative. They only said to improvise. Improvise? The squad leader's gaze suddenly sharpened. Got it. He clapped his hands, a smile on his face, and activated the translator, unexpectedly declaring, "You are now under arrest for crimes against humanity." After saying this, the squad leader praised himself internally. This charge was brilliant. The engineer race is supposed to want to destroy humanity, right? Are the beings in this universe and the realm of Jojo considered humanity? Of course. So, arresting the engineer for crimes against humanity is only reasonable, right? Wow. Logic closed the loop. Time to capture. Use the tranquilizer gun. The squad leader shouted. Without hesitation, he raised his hand, aiming the tranquilizer gun directly. Bang. A muffled sound echoed. The tranquilizer dart, marked with a red warning color, hit the engineer in the abdomen. At this moment, the engineer looked utterly bewildered. What the heck? Just moments ago, it had been greeting the human amicably. He turned his head and immediately grabbed a weapon. Is this really the kind of humanity we VE guided out? Are humans this brutal? Ah, you all deserve to die, in alien language. Realizing the situation, the engineer cursed angrily, struggled to stand up, and was about to seize the assault team leader who had fired the shot. However, the heavy cavalry and shield bearers who had been waiting beside him were not to be underestimated. Seeing that the enemy not only refused to surrender but was ready to resist, the shield bearer leaped forward, raising his heavy shield to press down. The heavy cavalry also took a big step forward and lightly threw a punch. This engineer, for now, was the only one, and he couldn't be killed for real. After all, the engineer was just a mortal. The shield bearer's mechanical strength was something he struggled to withstand. Then, the heavy cavalry landed a punch right on his face, waking him up completely. Without a weapon, he was no match. Stumbling back a couple of steps, the anesthetic began to kick in. He slipped, fell to the ground, and the engineer completely fainted. Chapter 175. There's still an old fool. In the alien world. In the spaceship ruins, in the cockpit. Fong Jing looked at the fainted engineer on the ground, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He had clearly seen that solid punch just now. The engineer's eyes were completely cleared. Suddenly, he really wanted to write a big word for tragic on the engineer's face. Got it. Captain, the target has been secured. Bring in the containment chamber immediately. The assault team leader waved his hand. Team members rushed up and immediately bound the engineer. Thus, the unstable factor of the living being in the spaceship ruins was finally resolved. Next, sealing those biological weapons separately, they could happily research the spaceship. The remaining task of transporting the engineer's body would be handed over to the cleaning team. The assault team leader ordered the captured engineer to be placed in the large containment chamber. The containment chamber would provide a suitable environment to maintain the engineer's survival. Task completed. Fong Jing and Zhou Yuan exchanged glances, feeling quite pleased. This was an extraterrestrial intelligent being. This trip was worth it. Brother Zhou, on LV-233. There are many more ships of the engineer race. Perhaps there are others that have survived by chance, Fong Jing said with a glimmer of anticipation in his eyes. There must be. Where there is one, there is bound to be another. The situation on other ships might even be better. Zhou Yuan nodded affirmatively. With more ships, anything could happen. So, do you think there are any scientists from the engineer race among these ships? Fong Jing asked, a hint of excitement in his tone. These would be scientists from a completely different path than humanity. If they could capture one, it would provide mutual verification, greatly broadening their technological perspective and uncovering difficult-to-prove issues. More importantly, it would offer new ways of thinking. There must be. It's impossible to have only crew members, just like the Kunming ship. Although it's a military vessel, there would also be scientists from the military academy aboard. After all, even during the age of exploration, there were researchers who would set sail with the ships. Zhou Yuan calculated that this possibility was quite high. Moreover, even if there weren't any, don't forget there's a planet full of engineers. The one from the alien Covenant, where the engineer species resides. What is more exciting is that the engineers there are not on guard. David and Dr. Shaw flew directly through the engineer spaceship. That place could also be a target for schemes. Fong Jing also realized this, and after a careful thought, he came to a conclusion. The Prometheus was luring humanity, and the engineers had a planet waiting for their arrival. Wow, this alien universe is truly a treasure trove. As they spoke, they had already passed through the inner chamber and arrived at the entrance of the ruins. Upon exiting, the warriors stationed outside immediately rushed over to conduct a laser inspection of their exterior. After finding no damage, they immediately sprayed disinfectant. Subsequently, the convoy leisurely transported the engineers towards the temporary camp. Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan went straight to the command vehicle. At this moment, Cheng Yuan was visibly troubled as he wrote a report. What's wrong, Captain Cheng? Fang Jing asked nervously. Is something wrong? It's Peter Weyland. He used a virtual device to call David, inquiring about the mission progress. I'm reporting to the higher-ups on how to handle this. Cheng Yuan frowned. Peter Weyland called David? Fang Jing raised an eyebrow, suddenly remembering that in the original story, David would occasionally use a virtual device to report the mission progress to Weyland. Unexpectedly, this time, Weyland took the initiative to call. In the temporary camp, in the storage area for the stasis pods, Weyland was quite puzzled. Although he was also in stasis, he maintained some awareness using the company-developed equipment. After being awakened by the alarm, he could even call David through the virtual device. However, David didn't come to speak with him on time this time. Could something have happened? This made the aging Weyland's fear intensify. This was the fear of facing the end of life. David, respond. The virtual channel was met with silence. This lonely silence made Weyland's last confidence begin to crumble. Could something really have happened? I'm here, sir. Suddenly, David's voice appeared on the virtual device. David, where have you been? Hearing David's voice, Weyland felt a wave of relief. His tone regained its cold authority as he questioned, what is going on? Unfortunately, sir, there was an unexpected incident during the mission. We encountered another group of people. David's voice was calm. In the virtual world, a panoramic view of the Prometheus suddenly appeared before Weyland. Before him, the recent events were rapidly replayed. This was David projecting his memories into the virtual world. This was also Weyland's way of obtaining external information. How is this possible? Seeing the old armored vehicles in clusters, along with the bizarre electromagnetic cannon tanks, Villander's voice trembled as the entire virtual world mirrored his fluctuating emotions. Calm down, sir. What has happened. Now, we are all captives of each other, including you. David's voice remained calm, playing the role of an emotionless robot. What are their demands? The violently shaking virtual world stabilized as Villander regained his composure. They need you to provide evidence that you are still alive to the Villander Corporation, which they will then use to edit a message to the company. David glanced at the distant, dark barrel pointing at him and answered truthfully. They want to contact the company in my name? The old armored vehicles. Where had he seen that flag before? Young Peter Villander furrowed his brow and fell silent for a while before realizing with a start. Are these people time travelers? I don't think so. They all speak Chinese and know a lot about us. David replied slowly, pausing before explaining. The armored convoy came down from the Prometheus. The spaceship couldn't possibly hold that much information. I suspect they have laid out a wormhole or something similar on the ship. I can't understand. If David couldn't understand, Villander fell silent. What can they offer me? Villander, nearing the end of his life, feared no threats. He could betray his own company, but what would be the cost? What about the compensation? The reward they offer you should be hard to refuse, David said evenly. In the virtual world, another string of memories began to play. This memory showed David watching a video in a somewhat outdated biological laboratory. An elderly white man with graying hair was fiddling with a gene recording device. The scene then zoomed in on a computer screen. This is it. Seeing the image on the computer, Villander's tone became excited. The entire virtual world erupted in an earthquake. Is this real? Is it really happening? Chapter 176. Danger. Villander's call was unexpected. He didn't think that this old guy could still call out while in hibernation. But even if he woke up, it didn't matter. Cheng Yuan had a contingency plan. He pulled out plan number 23, emergency plan for handling hibernating personnel awakening during transport. Just follow it. Sure enough, having a secret manual was satisfying. Once the item was taken out, it was a direct pass. Just the initial research by Dr. Cyril on the ancestral virus made Villander yield at lightning speed. He stated directly, as long as you can extend my life and ensure my future, I am willing to cooperate with anything, even if it means being the one to destroy the Villander Corporation. This was a person who had given up everything for the sake of longevity. In the temporary camp, in the command vehicle, Cheng Yuan handed a storage device to the information officer. Villander has agreed to personally come forward to prove that there is a non-threatening alien command civilization spaceship relic on LV-233. We will draft an order to have Villander's company send an expedition ship over. Glancing at the storage device, Fang Jing cautiously said, could there be any hidden messages in the information edited by Villander? If there are any hidden messages in the proof personally drafted by Villander, it could lead the forces from the alien world to us. That would be a disaster. Although the beings from the alien world are quite reckless, they are already capable of faster-than-light travel, and no matter how many forces we have, we cannot compete with them in this universe. Rest assured, we will enlist language experts to translate these messages. Cheng Yuan felt that the probability of guessing the opponent's hidden messages was too low. He decided to take a more radical approach. By using intelligent translation, translating from English to Chinese, and then back to English, repeating this process 20 times, and then having a translation master revise it based on the original meaning, the likelihood of hidden messages existing while ensuring the meaning remains unchanged would be virtually zero. Good. Fang Jing recalled a video he had seen before, showing the bizarre outcome of translating the memorial of Yayang Tower 20 times using translation software. Good. So that's the plan. After this, we will let the experts translate according to the original meaning. If any hidden messages can still be transmitted after this process, that would indeed be remarkable. Once the information is edited, we will use the communication system on the Prometheus to transmit it. In the alien world, Human civilization has already achieved faster-than-light travel. Accordingly, the communication system also matches this speed. Faster than light. Through the equipment on the Prometheus, we can compress space and create a similar narrow tube so that the signal can reach faster-than-light speeds. Military scientists reviewed the equipment on the Prometheus and provided an explanation for this faster-than-light communication principle. However, Fang Jing could not understand it at all. His understanding of communication technology was still limited to quantum communication, which cannot achieve faster-than-light travel. Earth will receive this message in about 15 years. Scientists from the military academy expressed some regret, stating that Earth's technology for faster-than-light travel is still in its infancy, and the multiples of surpassing light speed are not very high yet. During the events of Alien 2, Earth received information about the colony's troubles with very little delay. This is both a regret and a relief for the scientists. Currently, the Prometheus's faster-than-light travel technology is relatively rudimentary. However, this simplicity may actually facilitate better deciphering by both this universe and the Jojo world. Additionally, the biological weapons on the Engineer Race-S ships have been completely transferred. We are about to dismantle the ships. The armor of the Engineer Race-S ships is not very thick. In the original work, the Prometheus suffered a significant impact that created a large hole. Therefore, dismantling it should not be too difficult for the people of this universe. After all, there are more than 20 ships. Dismantling 1 or 2 is really not a big deal, right? Brothers, let us just get it done. Over here, in the alien world, various plans are being vigorously implemented. Fishing, dismantling spaceships, constructing outposts and camps. With the thought of faster-than-light spaceships, we have already leaped into interstellar civilization. The entire synthetic battalion under Qing Yuan is like a shot of adrenaline. Here they come. Tasks are being completed with great efficiency. Wherever they go, it's like a layer of molten wasteland left behind. Meanwhile, in the world of Jiuzhou, on the continent of a certain region, in the underground secret laboratory of Jiuzhou United University, scientists involved in Project 237 have been eagerly waiting and finally received the news. The surviving engineer found in the spaceship ruins has officially been delivered. As the leading edge of research in this universe and the Jiuzhou world, the newly established Jiuzhou United University will take on a complex task. They will integrate the acquired technology and cultivate research talents suited for interstellar civilization. Outside the decontamination room, a group of elderly individuals, surrounded by doctoral and graduate students, have put on protective suits. Nearby, the most elite soldiers dispatched by the military are fully prepared. Inside the decontamination room, at the spatial gate, the engineer has awakened. It is now very terrified, extremely terrified. The human race, the species cultivated by its engineers, has just found a reason to capture it. When it was captured, it was still in a daze. Just a moment ago, it was asking, "How are you?" The next moment, it was charged with crimes against humanity and captured. This is clearly targeted at it. The engineer has now figured it out. Any reason given is false. They just want to capture it for research. Realizing this, the engineer instinctively fights for survival. It struggles to move its arms and shake its body, trying to break free from the restraints. However, all of this is in vain. What the hell? What kind of thing are these damned humans using to bind it? It's way too tight. Captain, it's already awake. The team transporting the engineer, equipped with fully enclosed exoskeletons, noticed the movement of the cargo. Don't worry, it's just the straps used to secure the armored vehicle. If it manages to break free, then I'll admit it's impressive. The captain speaks roughly, but clearly. All right, we've arrived. Let us stand it up. The team passes through the spatial gate into a fully enclosed biological laboratory and then stops. Next, they directly lift the engineer, who was lying flat, upright. At the same time, several alien serpent-like creatures are also placed into the isolation laboratory. The safety procedure has been checked for the 20th time. There are no leaks during transport, and all transported life forms have been fitted with controllers to ensure instant control over their movements. Done. Okay, the airlock chamber is opening. I'll let the scientists in. Click, click. The engineer is stood up, its eyes wide open, staring at the slowly opening airlock chamber, breathing rapidly, nearly scared to death. Because, as the door opens, a large crowd rushes in. In the eyes of these people, the engineer actually sees a strange green light. Fervor. This is the excitement after seeing the most precious experimental specimen. Unbeknownst to him, the engineer felt a large red word appear above his head. Danger. Chapter 177. Let's conclude today's visit here. Before he knew it, half a month had passed. The exploration of the alien world on planet LV-233 was still progressing in an orderly manner. The engineers were cautiously dismantling their spacecraft. This was a ship that had dominated civilization for an unknown duration, and it was a battleship designed for weapon delivery. Even a single component from it could greatly benefit both this universe and the realm of Jiuzhou. Moreover, in the original text, it took off without any visible propulsion engines. This means that this spacecraft very likely possesses anti-gravity technology. Such speculation placed immense pressure on the engineering soldiers dismantling it. Every action was executed with extreme caution, fearing that even a small mistake could impact subsequent research. Fang Jing had spent several days in the alien world, witnessing the marvels. After that, he joined the escort team back to the realm of Jiuzhou. It had been a long time since he had visited Jiuzhou. This time, besides taking a stroll, the most important event was the official inauguration of Jiuzhou United University Ground Teaching Department, which was set to have its ribbon-cutting ceremony today. This was a very important day, and not only Fang Jing, but also Elder Zhu, Elder Wang, and General Cheng took time to attend in person. In the Jiuzhou realm, somewhere in the central plains of the continent, the Jiuzhou United University, covering an area of 2 million acres, had a gate that was over 100 meters tall, leaving Fang Jing awestruck. This university looked like a supermodel. With such a large gate and vast area, it seemed like it was built specifically for the engineering clan. The red ribbons hung were also over 100 meters long. At the entrance, aside from Fang Jing and the others, scientists from the 237 program and Chinese scientists from East Asia were eagerly gathered at the gate, much like students. This would be an important place for their further studies, helping the entire Huaxia civilization become an interstellar civilization. Elder Zhu, Elder Wang, and Zhou Zhizhong stood on a high platform. Elder Wang and Zhou Zhizhong smiled and gestured for Elder Zhu to speak. Elder Zhu smiled slightly at Fang Jing in the distance, then glanced around and grinned. Comrades, we have gathered here because of one person. However, today, that person is shy and doesn't want to come up to speak. Upon finishing, Elder Zhu chuckled softly. The scientists present, all part of the 237 program, naturally knew who Elder Zhu was referring to, and they chuckled in response. The elderly folks beside Fang Jing laughed and patted him on the shoulder, nodding. Little Fang, you've worked hard. Fang Jing returned the sentiment. Elder Zhu had originally intended for him to say a few words, but Fang Jing felt that he wasn't very good at speaking and would rather make a fool of himself if he went up. Look, Brother Zhou has even squatted in the corner drawing circles. Nonetheless, his contributions were undeniable and must be remembered. Now, let us give him a round of applause. Old Zhu took the lead, and continuous applause erupted at the scene. The applause was like waves, endlessly rolling in. Standing in the crowd, Fang Jing felt a surge of joy upon hearing the applause dedicated to him. Isn't this a sense of honor? Listening to the overwhelming clapping, Fang Jing felt as if he could already compile several family trees. All right, let's return to the matter at hand. Old Zhu quieted the applause and pointed to the sign behind him with a smile. The establishment of the Jiuzhou United University aims to ensure that everyone present can achieve results quickly and become the talent pool for our journey to the stars. Here is the starting point for us to reach the stars and become a true interstellar civilization. Comrades, we will work together for this. After speaking, Old Zhu turned around and took the scissors that Zhou Ji handed him. With great solemnity, he cut the red ribbon. The ground portion of Jiuzhou United University is officially established. Jiuzhou United University gathers the most top-notch scientists and the most comprehensive fields of research from 2 worlds, along with the most cutting-edge technological achievements. Fang Jing followed the group and toured the university for an afternoon. Not only was the school large, but the teaching model also left Fang Jing astonished. In one classroom, he actually saw virtual reality equipment. Yes, it was the device you were thinking of. This was developed from the inspiration of the Digital Life project by Jiuzhou's Wandering Earth. It is a virtual reality device that can simulate 100. This can also be used for teaching. Fang Jing pointed at the helmets in the classroom and the densely packed simulation operation rooms, raising his eyebrows. Shouldn't these devices be prioritized for the military? It would be just right for the Red-Blue faction to fight aliens in virtual reality after enough physical training. A change of scene for the training would be fine too. It could also help soldiers get familiar with the interstellar battlefield in advance. Yes, that's right. This is the learning equipment we specifically provided for urgently needed technical workers, the presenter beside him said with a sweet smile, continuing to explain. For example, spaceship maintenance, construction, and upkeep, spaceship piloting, target recognition, and intelligent equipment operation. These cutting-edge industries require technical workers with educational qualifications far exceeding the past, and the training time is too long. Therefore, we launched virtual learning technology. Using this device, along with the simulation cabin, we can train a qualified and reliable technical worker within 200 hours. Oh, Fang Jing nodded upon hearing this. He understood. It was about training production workers, pilots, maintenance personnel, and basic workers suitable for the space age. After all, the differences in safety requirements and operations in space compared to Earth are starkly different. If training is insufficient, there is a high possibility of encountering reckless individuals like those on the Prometheus. Thinking about the potential risks of their exploration vessels due to carelessness, Fang Jing shivered. He completely understood the benefits of this equipment. As more and more people entered space, with a larger population, there would be all sorts of issues to address. Designing spacecraft safety protocols is one aspect. Safety and epidemic prevention education is an indispensable part. Only by tackling both aspects can we achieve greater safety and reliability. However, can this thing be used for gaming? After understanding the usefulness of virtual reality devices, Fang Jing couldn't help but ask, wow, with this thing, wouldn't virtual reality games be amazing? It can indeed be used. The guide chuckled softly and introduced. We have already collaborated with the military to research several real-time combat games. However, due to the high fidelity requirements, the computational load is too great, and it is currently not available for civilian use. It is only for military exercises at the moment. It's still not available for civilian use. Fang Jing felt a bit surprised, but more disappointment followed. He was planning to get one. Even if it's just for military combat exercises, that would be great. If Colonel Fang needs it, he can access the military network's database. The guide looked at Fang Jing, a bit disappointed, and chuckled lightly. The guide's words made Fang Jing's eyes light up. Right, by accessing the military's database, he could play and experience it. Today's visit is coming to an end. It's time to check out my virtual reality games. Chapter 178, The Heart of the Spaceship. It really is a heart, isn't it? Damn. At the Shishan base, a furious roar suddenly echoed in Fong Jing's lounge. He took off the black full-face helmet on his head, panting heavily. After learning about the virtual reality games, Fong Jing didn't hesitate and immediately ended his visit to the Jiuzhou United University. He returned, got a virtual reality device, and logged in using the military network. This is virtual reality gaming. Fong Jing was ready to dominate and conquer. However, as soon as he entered the military's real-time exercise game, he was quickly eliminated. The real-time exercise game was truly about fighting aliens. Thinking about the terrifying scenes that just occurred, cold sweat streamed down Fong Jing's forehead like a flood. This game is not just about fighting aliens. It also features supermodel aliens. Damn, not only is there an alien fleet from the engineer faction, but there's also an obvious water droplet attack mechanism. They are the enemies. Throughout the battle, the blue team directly targeted the solar system fleet, taking them out one by one. Fong Jing immersed himself in the scene. It was truly despairing. The biological weapons of the engineer faction destroyed development bases on various planets in the solar system, one after another. Then, Fong Jing's fleet could only watch as the water droplets wreaked havoc. In the end, Fong Jing was wiped out in one fell swoop. Damn, the difficulty setting is unreasonable. Sitting on his bed, Fong Jing couldn't stop complaining about the scene he just witnessed. How can the enemy in an exercise be set to exceed human technology by several generations? Just as he was ranting furiously, his secure phone suddenly rang. Ding ding ding. Hello, this is Fong Jing. Oh, Colonel Fong, you logged into the real-time strategy game too? That's correct. Oh, you entered the wrong match. You are in a doomsday scenario, and the strength of the blue team set by the Directorate is simply outrageous. A doomsday scenario? Fong Jing's mouth twitched. No wonder, but this Directorate is really unreasonable. The enemy in this doomsday scenario is set according to a certain advanced civilization, right? No, it's an enhanced version of that civilization. After all, the engineer civilization is mixed in as well. Indeed, you should have entered a normal Star Wars version, where soldiers can hone their skills. The voice on the other end of the phone chuckled. In the doomsday scenario, the blue team is too strong, and deaths are inexplicable. A few days ago, I went for an experience, and as soon as the spaceship took off, I was directly killed by the opponent's infrasonic hydrogen bomb. Encountering an infrasonic hydrogen bomb right after taking off, no doubt, it resulted in total annihilation. Isn't that just like getting off a train and then being sent home by a nuclear strike in a drill? So, how is the battle ratio in the doomsday scenario? Fong Jing was quite curious. In a certain drill against the alien forces, the red team at least won one match. However, with this enhanced version, Fong Jing felt it was quite precarious. The battle ratio so far is 109 losses and 1 draw. The voice on the other end of the phone made Fong Jing's eyes widen. Wow, 109 losses are understandable. But what kind of divine intervention produced that 1 draw? 1 draw? Yes, there is 1 draw. The voice on the other end sighed a bit. It was the coalition forces, the coalition of our region and another. The fleet spread out its battle lines and ultimately used the flagship's fusion field to distort the strong connection of the attacking object, causing damage. In the end, they fought to total annihilation and barely managed to damage that version of the water droplet. By the way, they managed to protect the development base. It was a draw, but not a complete one. After all, damaging that version of the water droplet was already a life-threatening task. As a result, behind that, there was still a large number of engineers' ships. This was to let the soldiers experience the intensity in advance, to prevent them from becoming complacent. The voice on the other end whispered mysteriously. It is said that once the technology of the 237 project breaks through a bit more, that version of the water droplet will increase in intensity, and may even reach light speed. Not only that, all sci-fi media containing elements of Star Wars have been integrated into it. Moreover, there are separate scenarios. Fong Jing exclaimed, this targeting is a bit too strong. They are now preparing talents for Star Wars. Once the equipment is in place, they can start fighting as soon as they board, right? Fong Jing could already imagine how bewildered those cosmic warships would be when they encountered them in the future. How could the opponents know them so well? In the alien world, on planet LV-233, holding the newly delivered structural diagram of the engineer's ship, Cheng Yuan felt an immense reduction in pressure. With the blueprint, disassembling it becomes much easier. As for how this structural diagram came about, Cheng Yuan had a rough idea that it was sent over by the joint university of the region. Indeed, the underground part. So, this thing must be authentic. The spacecraft's power system is located here, and the modules between the engines can be disassembled. In the distance, numerous robots are being directed to dismantle the spacecraft. Nowadays, the entire hill of ruins has been flattened. The hatch is open, and the outer shell of the spacecraft has been mostly taken apart. At the midpoint of this arc-shaped, C-shaped spacecraft, a massive, grotesque structure has been exposed. The structure is embedded within the inner shell, with a complex shape and densely packed wiring that is quite unsettling to behold. Unlike the cables of human spacecraft, this engineer's spacecraft is wrapped not only in wires, but also in biological structures that resemble blood vessels clinging to a heart. Indeed, besides the cables, there are also things that resemble biological meridians, now exposed and starting to writhe uneasily. This is the supervisor, Cheng Yuan, gaped at the scene before him, feeling a shock in his heart. It is well known that the engineer's civilization possesses advanced biotechnology, but he never expected that their spacecraft would also exhibit some biological characteristics. Looking at the power room, where the power devices are wrapped in what appears to be biological tentacles or tubular structures, Cheng Yuan felt a shiver run down his spine. This sight is far too disturbing, akin to gazing upon a Cthulhu-like ancient deity. How are we supposed to dismantle this? Beside him, the leader of the engineering team wore a face of despair. I can't believe it. I thought we had blueprints and could at least take apart a bit. Instead, you give me biotechnology? What are we supposed to do with this? Just head in and dismantle it? Directly cut it off. The information says these pulsations are for transmitting signals and have no effect on the spacecraft's power system and engines. Cheng Yuan grinned. Biotechnology. After removal, the samples will be preserved and sent to the research center. A group of elderly scientists has been clamoring for this. Biotechnology. This is one of the technologies that humanity has not yet fully illuminated. Now, those scientists will have plenty to study. After all, this field is still quite unfamiliar to humanity. Chapter 179. Wait for me to formulate an escape plan. Wait, ISNT this my engine cover. In the underground section of the Kyushu United University, an engineer curled up in a corner, looking despondent. Weak, pitiful, helpless. In fact, the scientists have not been cruel to him. After all, he is a living, humanoid intelligent being. The people here are not cold-blooded scientists. Their research on him has remained within normal limits. Communication, blood sampling, hair, and exoskeleton keratin, and then they placed him aside. What truly made the engineer somewhat withdrawn was the ongoing research. They discovered an alien serpentine creature on the spacecraft. For this thing, the scientists showed no restraint whatsoever. Even if the blood of this serpentine creature is a powerful acidic substance, so what? During the dissection, they directly connected it to a large tank filled with flowing alkaline solution. Then, when the scalpel cuts one, I'll replace it with another. With all this time and resources, I still can't dissect a small serpentine creature? Now, this serpentine creature has been skinned, its muscles removed, its blood drained, and even its bones extracted. All its organs are neatly arranged, as if obsessively organized, ready to be shared with other eager biologists. This alien snake species has skin capable of withstanding such strong acids that even highly corrosion-resistant cables of space elevators can be dissolved. The atomic structure of its inner skin layer is peculiar, which might be the reason. It's worth studying. The more this creature is researched, the more addictive it becomes for biologists. This is research worthy of a dedicated award. The scientists present looked at the few remaining alien snakes, suddenly hesitant to dissect them further. Could they reproduce and provide us with a continuous supply of research material? One biologist's eyes sparkled with a strange green light. I think it's possible. Let's have the military security personnel come over, and we can discuss the feasibility of breeding these serpentine creatures on an uninhabited planet. Yes, we can still discern when it comes to a satisfying meal, but we can't dissect all of these snakes. As they discussed, the group of biologists unexpectedly changed the topic to the possibility of breeding such serpentine creatures. This fervent state of the biologists made the engineers feel somewhat isolated. Goodness, are these humans going to dissect them like those snakes? Not now, but who knows in the future? Hey, come quick, I have a major discovery. Suddenly, a scholar from another region became excited during the biologist discussion. The spacesuits worn by the engineers are biotechnological and grown on them. Oh my, there is no technology better suited for space suits than this. Even though they have entered the space age, spacesuits are still as cumbersome as ever. Especially the pressure suits, which are extremely uncomfortable to wear. However, the engineers' spacesuits are completely different. They not only allow engineers to breathe on LV-233, but they can also withstand certain attacks. What is even more enviable is that these spacesuits fit snugly, without hindering the engineers' movements at all. Initially, biologists thought the engineers had undergone biological modifications to achieve such effects. However, after taking a sample of the outer keratin layer, they discovered that was not the case at all. This is the engineer's spacesuit. It's just that they use biotechnology, and the spacesuit grows on their skin like a second layer. If we could master this technology, it would make future space exploration much more convenient. The biologist affirmed this. He had been to space himself, and the discomfort of wearing a spacesuit is something else entirely. If a layer of keratinous spacesuit could grow on one's body to maintain internal pressure, it would definitely be extraordinarily comfortable. Thinking this way, the biologist unconsciously shifted his gaze to the engineer, who was huddled in the isolation chamber. He then gave what he considered a gentle smile. The isolation chamber was separated by a thick layer of glass. Through this glass, the engineer noticed the anthropologist's eyes and his extremely terrifying smile. Just a brief moment of eye contact. Even though they spoke different languages and belonged to different races, the engineer instinctively made a basic judgment. This scholar had some sinister intentions towards him. Glancing at the dissected and flayed alien snake, the engineer's face turned pale. He suddenly stood up and exclaimed, "I already know where you come from, and I am willing to cooperate with you. Whatever you want, I will tell you." He certainly did not want to become a test subject. Hearing the sentence from the translator, the biologist's smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion. Strange. He only intended to take some samples of the engineer's outer shell. Why did the engineer look so terrified? Was he really that frightening? Oh well, it didn't matter. The engineer was willing to cooperate, and he needed to report this quickly. The engineer's willingness to cooperate was undoubtedly good news for the 237 Project Research Department. A living engineer. This would play a decisive role in deciphering various technologies of the engineer. Meanwhile, seeing the terrifying human's face brighten, the engineer finally breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, it was also filled with anger. How could it have suffered such humiliation? It was now certain that these humans were probably not of the same batch as those who created them. The engineer had visited Earth more than once. In fact, many human civilizations' language systems had been inherited from their engineer race. However, the language spoken by the humans who captured it had no relation to the engineer's language. No, among this group, a few people had some connection, but most were speaking a completely unfamiliar language. This subtle difference led the engineer to a judgment. With this judgment, its confusion deepened. What on earth was going on now? I must escape, retrieve the spaceship, and return to my home planet. Once I return, I will gather the fleet and ensure that humans are utterly destroyed, no matter which batch it is. Just then, as the engineer steeled itself, several security personnel entered the laboratory. They pointed to a small door next to the isolation chamber. Hollis was the engineer's name, transliterated. The engineer complied and entered a containment box with rollers. Once inside, the box closed. It was pushed by the security personnel towards another isolation chamber. On the way, the engineer was still contemplating how to escape. However, when he was on the road and clearly saw what was coming towards him, headed for the biological laboratory, he was completely stunned. What did he see? Damn, that was the hatch from the power compartment of his spaceship. No way, was my spaceship disassembled? Chapter 180. Hurt by wine and lust, I've decided to quit drinking from today. In the underground section of the Western Mountain Base, the alien world LV-233 planet has already entered the development process. The planet has numerous spaceships. These spaceships will bring endless wealth to this universe and the 9 provinces world, especially with the genetic technology and biotechnology of the engineer civilization. This provides humanity with a completely different technological route. The scientists of Project 237 were astonished when they saw the internal situation of the disassembled spaceship ahead. It turns out that biotechnology can be played like this. What an eye-opener. It will still take time to crack these technologies. Next, Fong Jing's work was essentially over. He originally planned to continue learning, but entertainment was hindering him. Brother Zhou, what do you mean by this? Looking at the blank document in Zhou Yuan's hand, Fong Jing's mouth twitched more than an AK. However, even though it was hard to suppress, he had to struggle against the urge to smile. Don't hold back, just laugh if you want to. Zhou Yuan rolled his eyes at Fong Jing's expression. You brat, it's obvious you're happy. Do you have to let it show so clearly? Hee hee. Brother Zhou understands me. Dodging the blank document, Fong Jing grinned foolishly. This is your benefit. Write a game of the type you want to play, and they will be responsible for solving it, along with a dedicated quantum computer line for you. That's the purpose of this document. This is also why Fong Jing was overjoyed. Because, seeing that he liked playing virtual reality games, Old Zhu simply decided to develop one according to Fong Jing's wishes. Remember, don't skip your training when the time comes. Seeing Fong Jing already starting to think deeply, Zhou Yuan shook his head and smiled subtly. Just right. He had been severely bullied in the apocalyptic scenario. You wrote it, I can play it too. Perfect. And now, Fong Jing had already started writing vigorously, writing according to his wishes. A virtual reality game? Oh man. This is a benefit. This is welfare sent to me. First, a big map, Eastern fantasy. Western sword and magic, all kinds of fairies and subhumans, all kinds of sea monsters. Mix them all in. Hey, Brother Zhou, I'm writing too much. Won't he tire out the development team? As he wrote further, Fong Jing suddenly looked up. He was afraid that there was too much content and it would directly sacrifice the development team. Don't worry. There have already been some achievements in cracking the Red Queen over there in the 9 provinces. Zhou Yuan waved his hand and chuckled, including the real-time training game. It's all developed with intelligent program assistance, so it won't take too much effort. Moreover, for the realism of the game, the enemies in the real-time training game are also controlled by intelligent programs, more human-like than humans. Then I can relax. Fong Jing's eyes lit up. Since that's the case, I want to be polite. Need it all in. Ha ha, I'm really working hard. At the base in the Western Mountains, drinking soda and eating chips while playing virtual reality games. Cough. Thinking about it this way suddenly makes me less eager to train. No. I can't be harmed by indulgence. From today on, I'll quit drinking. With a flourish of the pen, I focused and nodded. I've finished my grand world. Next to me, someone was puzzled. I thought to myself, you don't drink either? Moreover, how come you mentioned not being harmed by indulgence? You didn't even bring up indulgence at all. In a certain underground section of a university alliance, deep within a secure room, the engineer, Holos, was locked in a transparent isolation box and had been brought here. Once the safety checks were completed, the lights in front of him turned on. Opposite the isolation glass, 3 individuals, Mr. Zhu, Mr. Wang, and Zhou Zhizhong, were quietly watching the engineer. The 3 remained silent, their gazes serene, as if they could see through one's heart. The engineer's eyes were filled with desolation. His hopes had been shattered. Just now, the object that had been disassembled was definitely part of his spaceship. Moreover, there was the engine cover. Damn it, his spaceship had been taken apart. What do you want to do? In alien language, his voice was filled with humiliation and unwillingness. It's true that destroying humanity is one thing, but being captured, he was not convinced. If it weren't for the problem that occurred midway, would he have been caught? You might not know, we are not the humans created by your kind. Zhou Zhizhong's voice was steady, wanting to see what expression would appear on the engineer's face. I already have my guesses. Hearing the voice from the translator, the engineer was not surprised. He had long had his suspicions. In fact, We are not even beings from your universe. Seeing that he had guessed, Zhou Zhizhong continued to delve deeper, releasing an even more shocking piece of news. What? The engineer Holos suddenly raised his head, his completely black eyes fixed on Zhou Zhizhong. Even though they were two different species, Zhou Zhizhong still saw astonishment in the engineer's eyes. The engineer was momentarily stunned. Not only were they not humans cultivated by engineers, but they weren't even humans from this universe? You came from a parallel universe? No, you can't possibly have such technology. The engineer recalled the weapons used by the humans who captured him. Kinetic weapons? Impossible. How could those who used kinetic weapons have the ability to traverse parallel universes? That would be as absurd as interstellar civilizations fighting with swords and knives. If it weren't for him waking up on the projection ship, on an armed vessel, as long as he got hold of an energy weapon, he could show those who captured him what interstellar civilization truly meant. I know you want to believe it. Zhou Zhizhong nodded at Mr. Zhu, then pressed a button on the remote control in his hand. A video began to play in front of the engineer. It was an armored vehicle, and in front of it was something resembling a wormhole. This wormhole was pitch black, spherical, with shining stars on it. A wormhole? The engineer's heart trembled. He couldn't be mistaken. This is a wormhole. Hard to believe. The humans who are still using kinetic weapons can actually create wormholes. This is something even the engineers couldn't accomplish. An armored vehicle drove straight into the wormhole, and then, in a flash, it appeared on top of a spaceship. As the scene continued to shift, the armored vehicle arrived on planet LV-233. Only upon witnessing this did the engineer fully believe it. It stood frozen, realizing that these humans truly came from a parallel universe. Where am I now? The engineer asked eagerly. Naturally, it's our universe. Zhou Zhi immediately guessed Horus's thoughts. This guy wants to escape. It's over, it's finished. Upon hearing Zhou Zhi's affirmative response, Horus was completely filled with despair. It had entered a den of thieves. Even if it ran away, what could it do? This universe probably doesn't even have the engineer race. Now, can we continue our discussion? Zhou Zhi smiled slightly. Having shattered the engineer's psychological defenses and extinguished its last hope, it's time we talked about cooperation. We're very interested in your race's biotechnology. Chapter 181, Biological Exoskeleton. At the Shishan base, in the underground section. Inside the rest cabin, a call bell rang. On the bed, a device recorded the sound precisely. In the virtual world, Fang Jing was dressed in a brocade robe, standing on a flying sword, floating above the mountains and clouds. He soared gracefully, sleeves fluttering, enjoying himself. Suddenly, the communication interface popped up on its own. Zhou Yuan's voice came through. Fang Jing, hurry, there's something good in the disinfection room. Something good? Fang Jing glanced at the time. Damn, it's already 3 in the afternoon. After eating, he got caught up in this virtual game, and just like that, 3 hours passed. But this game is really fun. Fang Jing never expected that in just 2 months, he had written a rough outline for a game, and it had already been developed. Just now, he was playing the role of a sword cultivator in Zhongzhou, enjoying the scenery. Playtime is over, though, it's time to get to work. He pulled up the settings page, scrolled down without hesitation, and pressed the exit button. Inside the rest cabin, Fang Jing opened his eyes. After removing the device from his head, he felt a bit reluctant. Damn, it's just like me. If a gamer came here, they'd probably just want to waste their days. This is a virtual game. No, I can't let entertainment distract me. The reality OL game is even more exciting with me in it. Saying this, Fang Jing jumped off the bed. Let's go to work. Outside disinfection room number 5. Fang Jing looked at the empty corridor, raising an eyebrow. What is going on? Where is everyone? Put on your protective suit and come in. A voice suddenly came from the surveillance on the corridor. Without hesitation, Fang Jing put on the protective suit, followed the procedures to check, and entered the airlock. What is Zhou Ge being mysterious about? As he thought this, a mechanical reminder suddenly rang out from the side. The oxygen level in the disinfection chamber was insufficient. With carbon dioxide reaching 95, please ensure to wear an oxygen tank with the protective suit. Then, a small hatch on the side of the airlock opened, revealing a replacement oxygen tank. Following the safety prompt, Fang Jing donned the oxygen tank. At the same time, he felt even more confused. What was going on? Why did the disinfection chamber resemble a non-Earth environment? With 95 carbon dioxide, this was practically a Martian environment. What was Zhou Ge doing? Once everything was confirmed, the airlock opened. Fang Jing looked up and was taken aback, his eyes widening and mouth agape. At that moment, in the spacious backup disinfection chamber, Zhou Yuan was surprisingly not wearing a protective suit. Hearing the movement from the airlock, Zhou Yuan smirked and slowly turned his head. Now Fang Jing could see clearly. Zhou Yuan wasn't just without a protective suit. Honestly, he wasn't even wearing clothes. His robust body was covered by a layer of fitted, protruding, gray exoskeleton. This exoskeleton seemed to grow directly from Zhou Yuan's skin. On his abdomen and chest, there were skeletal-like protrusions providing support, making Zhou Yuan appear even more well-proportioned. Additionally, a faint membrane covered his skull, seamlessly blending with his skin, giving the impression that this was something that had grown on Zhou Yuan himself. Was this the engineer's biological technology exoskeleton? Fang Jing realized. What Zhou Yuan was wearing at that moment was exactly what the engineers had developed, just with a slightly different color and texture. The key was that Zhou Yuan could function in an environment with 95 carbon dioxide, as if he were exposed. This was truly impressive. Correct, This was indeed the biological technology exoskeleton of the engineer race. Zhou Yuan turned his head, grinning widely, and exclaimed, "It's way more comfortable than that protective suit. I feel just like I'm outside." The biological exoskeleton of the engineer race had been developed? Fang Jing's eyes widened as he jogged over to Zhou Yuan, poking at the exoskeleton on Zhou Yuan's body with a gloved finger. "This has grown on you?" "Pretty much. It's actually an extension of the skin, not something that just grows on you," Zhou Yuan quickly clarified. "This technology is essentially a genetic modification and enhancement of the skin. It's not something foreign growing on the body. With the cooperation of Engineer Horus over the past 2 months, we've made significant progress in cracking their biotechnology. This biological exoskeleton is one of the results. It can maintain internal pressure and provide oxygen for human respiration. There are specialized areas on the exoskeleton responsible for converting various gases into the oxygen humans need. The energy for its function comes from our own bodies. Moreover, the biological exoskeleton has a super immune system. Any invading unknown viruses will be directly consumed by the outer shell. With this exoskeleton, I could even live directly on Mars." Saying this, Zhou Yuan picked up a cup of water from the table. Then, he opened his mouth and tilted his head back to drink. The water, through the membrane attached to his mouth, was swallowed by Zhou Yuan. This biological armor allows people to eat normally in abnormal environments. This is the biotechnology of the engineering clan. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This set of biological armor is simply the last piece of the puzzle for humanity to step into the stars. With it, humans can live freely on other planets. Realizing this, Fang Jing's eyes widened. No wonder this thing was developed ahead of time. First, compared to faster-than-light engines, its technical difficulty is not high. Second, this thing is simply a miraculous tool for humanity. Truly miraculous. Zhou Yuan was not the first human to test the armor. The one he was wearing now is a nearly completed product. Can it be taken off? Looking at the armor integrated with his skin, Fang Jing was extremely curious. This thing is truly amazing. Of course it can be taken off, but it's quite troublesome. Zhou Yuan nodded. Although this thing is an extension of his skin, it is ultimately a piece of biotechnological armor. It's actually equivalent to an additional organ. It can definitely be removed, but it's very cumbersome. Imagine, Zhou Yuan would need to shed a layer of skin. It wouldn't be as simple as taking off clothes. So how is this armor worn? Fang Jing was very curious. This thing is so convenient. He could run freely on Mars in the future. It is a growth-promoting agent. Once injected, your skin will begin to grow and eventually form this kind of armor. Zhou Yuan gestured with his hand and explained. This was actually developed a long time ago under the leadership of Dr. Chiral. The reason it is only being presented now is due to safety testing. Chiral utilized the computational power of the entire realm, starting from animal experiments with mice, macaques, and gorillas, and finally to humans, taking over a month to conclude that it poses no danger to the human body. With Horus' cooperation, is there a possibility of hidden dangers? Fang Jing still had some concerns. The think tank had already considered this. Zhou Yuan waved his hand and explained with a smile. Horus' cooperation allowed us to understand how the engineering armor biotechnology was modified. Once we understood the principles and could replicate them, we decisively abandoned the genetic programs provided by Horus. Then we rebuilt it from the ground up using the genes of humans from this universe. Saying this, Zhou Yuan proudly puffed out his chest and said, "This armor is not only different in appearance from that of the engineering clan, but also completely different internally. The safety is absolutely guaranteed." Once Zhou Yuan explained, Fang Jing understood. So that is how it is. Using a computer system as an example, the engineers built a computer system using their own language. Now, with Horus' cooperation, the humans of this universe have completely reverse-engineered this computer system. Subsequently, the humans of this universe use their own language to reconstruct their own computer system. Since the two sides use different languages, these two computer systems are fundamentally incompatible. It's akin to the difference between Windows and Linux systems. Almost, but still quite different. Therefore, even if the engineers leave some room for maneuver, they ultimately cannot identify anything. The system is simply incompatible. Chapter 182. No, just a few years, and we become natives of this planet? In the sterilization room, Zhou Yuan, wearing a biological exoskeleton, moved comfortably in a simulated Martian environment. It felt just like being on Earth, nothing much different. This made Fang Jing's eyes go wide. Wow, this biological exoskeleton is truly amazing. There is no need for Fang Jing to worry about biological safety. With safety concerns out of the way, this exoskeleton has advantages everywhere. Right, but while it looks cool, it's a bit embarrassing. Zhou Yuan flexed his muscles in a pose like a bodybuilder. Chuckling while feeling a bit shy, this thing grows through skin via drug. It's basically an external organ. I constantly feel like I'm running around naked. Speaking of which, Zhou Yuan looked down at himself. Thankfully, this exoskeleton is tightly fitted. It hasn't exposed anything embarrassing. Hey, Fang Jing gave Zhou Yuan a disdainful glance, realizing that Zhou Gu had been running around naked all along. What kind of look is that? It's just a feeling, okay? This exoskeleton isn't clothing? Zhou Yuan caught Fang Jing's gaze and immediately retorted. He had to correct that impression. Otherwise, by tomorrow, the whole base would be buzzing about Zhou Yuan running around naked. By the way, Fang Jing, this exoskeleton has a very powerful function. Seeing Fang Jing's eyes light up with curiosity, Zhou Yuan quickly changed the subject. What function? Very powerful? Fong Jing was intrigued. Neural connection. This exoskeleton has a neural interface. Dr. Chiral integrated the technology of digital life into this exoskeleton, retaining the neural connection interface. Zhou Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. His reputation was saved. Seeing the curiosity in Fong Jing's eyes, he hurriedly continued. In the future, controlling the exoskeleton can be done by directly connecting to the neural sensory system, using consciousness to control it. As he spoke, Zhou Yuan pointed to the area near his lower back, where the exoskeleton indeed had a protrusion. Then, he picked up a small connector and inserted it into the protrusion. Click, click, click. Suddenly, a small robot next to Zhou Yuan stood up. In Fong Jing's curious gaze, it walked up to him and emitted Zhou Yuan's voice. Now, I am using a remote neural interface to convert neural signals into electrical signals to control this robot. Wow! Fong Jing exclaimed. This is unbelievable. He never expected technology could be integrated like this. So in the future, controlling heavy cavalry will truly be through neural connection, operating mechs? I know what you're thinking. Right now, I can control the heavy cavalry like this, but you can't. Zhou Yuan smirked, and under Fong Jing's puzzled gaze, he explained, I have implanted a neural auxiliary chip, which disassembles the massive signals from the heavy cavalry. If you were to directly control it, you'd end up as a fool. At this point, Fong Jing understood. After hearing this, he was left in awe. Wow, brother Zhou, how come you're always involved in everything? As soon as these words were out, Zhou Yuan rolled his eyes. Do you understand what safety testing is? Of course. I'm here to test it for you and see if this thing is safe or not. But it feels amazing. This robot is like an external organ I've grown. It's incredibly fascinating. After saying that, Zhou Yuan made a gesture as if holding a gun. Then, the robot charged out suddenly. Human-machine integration, right? Fong Jing, standing nearby in a bulky protective suit, was enviously watching. Once the testing is done, I want to get a set too. In this universe, unexpectedly, the world has been extremely quiet these past few months. No, it wouldn't be right to say it's quiet. It's that all countries are looking towards a certain Eastern power with complex expressions. First, the construction of the spaceport was completed, followed by the synchronous orbital base, the lunar base, and the Martian support base, and finally, the Martian development base. The critical nodes between Earth, the Moon, and Mars have all been established. Among them, the synchronous orbital base has a radius that even reaches kilometers. The number of people from this Eastern power residing beyond Earth has already reached 10,000. 10,000. More than 10,000 residing in a space development base. This has completely silenced the European Space Agency, the Federal Union, the Great Power, and the German Alliance. After all, their combined International Space Station only has 4 permanent residents. For people, this isn't just a matter of multiples. It's like adding 4 zeros. Now, this Eastern power has directly announced that the Moon and Mars are their territory, and no one dares to refute it. How can you refute it? Are you going to send people to Mars to establish residency? Without a permanent population, no one is going to pay attention to you. Especially since this Eastern power has even opened automated farms on Mars. They are seriously starting to build colonies. Additionally, Global Mining Corporation has officially changed its name to Solar System Mining Corporation. This, combined with the promised controllable nuclear fusion and various cheap industrial products from this Eastern power, has left other countries in this universe with no choice but to comply. Otherwise, what means do you have to contain this Eastern power? Are the Earth natives going to fight against a stellar civilization? They could wipe your cities clean from space, targeting each one. You wouldn't stand a chance. Intercontinental missiles aimed at the homeland? Come on, once those missiles reach their peak, they would be targeted and destroyed by spacecraft from that power. I don't believe such a large synchronous orbital base, along with over 20,000 auxiliary satellites, is merely a civilian development base in space. If you really think you can threaten this Eastern power's homeland with intercontinental missiles, you would be lost. Everyone knows what kind of character this Eastern power has. Those 20,000 auxiliary satellites are orbiting the synchronous orbit continuously. They are not small satellites. These are large satellites weighing 20 tons. With so many of them, are they just for communication? Who is watching whom without feeling uneasy? And who is watching whom without panic? Therefore, it can be said that now, in all fields, the balance of power has changed. The situation in a certain Eastern country cannot be concealed, even if they try. The sky is filled with numerous bright spots, especially at night when the moon is obscured. How do you explain that? Is there a total lunar eclipse every night? Especially with the operations of a certain Eastern country. It's enough to make one grit their teeth in frustration. With over 20,000 satellites, they broadcast radio signals and television signals for no reason. They're airing channels about lunar bases, Martian bases, and asteroid mining. Who can stop this global broadcast? Only some primitive tribes in Africa are completely unaware. In certain poorer countries in Africa, where radios are prevalent, after listening to the broadcasts, they feel like they are no longer of the same species as that Eastern country. If this continues, they will truly become the natives of Earth. They used to think this way. But it wasn't until they saw the live broadcast of the opening of automated farms on Mars that they realized it's not about speed. They have already become the natives of Earth. Chapter 183. Shocked, a powerful warrior appears on Mars. Terrifying indeed. In this universe, on Mars, a development base occupying a radius of 1 kilometer is hosting an automated farm's opening ceremony, being broadcast live to the world. The head of the base, wearing an extravehicular suit, is happily cutting the ribbon. However, The viewers watching the live stream are not focused on them at all. The reason for this is that as the first planetary development base for humanity, it is inevitably attracting attention, especially the automated farm relying on native Martian materials. Therefore, when the live stream opened, hundreds of millions of viewers flooded in within a short period. He was one of them. He opened the live stream early and watched the personnel at the Martian base gather together in their suits, feeling as if he were dreaming. It's too fast. Too fast. In just nearly 3 years, from landing on the moon to establishing a base on Mars, everything feels like a dream. The live broadcast continues, and at the center, a group of people joyfully begins cutting the ribbon. In the comments section, many netizens start chatting excitedly. However, perhaps because He was distracted, his gaze shifted, and he ended up focusing on a corner of the screen. It turned out that in that corner, there were a few blurry figures who were not wearing extravehicular spacesuits at all. What is going on? Seeing this scene, He quickly took a screenshot and then asked a question in the comments. At this moment, the comments were flooding in, overwhelming. Oh, the space farm will allow the Martian base to be self-sufficient in the future. Those born on Mars could be called Martians, right? Wow, from this angle. The base isn't visible. The live stream has found a photographic genius. Traditional skills, they even filmed a destroyer as a small fishing boat. Look at the corner. There are a few people not wearing spacesuits. Even the Jupiter gravity ship can be filmed as a blimp. The photographer must have burned out their brain. The media capacity is full, recording stopped. Attention, director. Pay attention to the timing of entering the factory. Wait, look upstairs. There's a sound coming from the small river. Who's that? Watch that corner. What's going on there? Oh no, there are several powerful beings in the corner, not wearing any protective suits. Wait, this is a recorded broadcast. The ribbon cutting must have already ended? Ha ha ha, live broadcast accident. Live broadcast accident. Director, really pay attention to the timing. What's happening? Ha ha ha. With He's speech, everyone in the live broadcast room noticed those few powerful figures in the corner who weren't wearing protective gear. Almost everyone thought this live broadcast was just a recorded one because the program team was afraid of something. These individuals were just a blooper. This live broadcast accident could be recorded in the history of live broadcast incidents alongside the launch of a certain spacecraft. At this moment, a person watching the live broadcast with a microscope weakly spoke up. Did you notice that the Mars booster has a screen showing air detection data? Look at the atmospheric data on the screen. 95 carbon dioxide. Is this really on Mars? It can't be. It must be a prop. The actions of the ribbon-cutting person don't seem fake. What on earth is going on? In the corner of the live broadcast screen, there indeed were a few blurry figures, standing there doing nothing at all. Host, explain this. What is going on over there? In the comments, more and more people began to notice the images in the corner. Meanwhile, the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the automated farm had just concluded. Perhaps the director finally noticed the comments, and the screen actually started to change. The entire scene shifted, revealing the massive Mars base. Not only the enormous Mars base, but the director even captured the 2 moons in the sky. Oh my, this is really Mars. Unbelievable. What are those humanoid figures in the back? They can live directly in the Martian environment. Could they be Martians? The live broadcast still had no sound. But the images continued to change, this time focusing on the original corner. Yes, right here, what on earth is this? He's eyes widened. Just now, in that corner, he had seen several humanoid beings without any clothing. Humanoid beings. Not just him. Now netizens around the world could only refer to them this way, as they dared not confirm what they were. However, the camera had already shifted, and the answer was about to be revealed. Clenching his fists, He stared intently at the live broadcast screen. The live broadcast camera zoomed in on the figures in the corner, continuously magnifying. Finally, the screen clearly presented the distant scene. Oh my, it's a person. What are they wearing? So cool. They look like some kind of beings, with skeletal supports on their abdomen and arms. What is going on? Who are these people, and how can they survive directly on Mars? All the viewers who saw the image dropped their jaws in shock. To everyone's surprise, those vague figures were indeed people. At this moment, the live broadcast showed several young individuals covered in gray scales, with skeletal structures supporting their chests and vital areas. These individuals were casually wandering in the midst of the red sand. If it weren't for the 2 shining satellites and the massive Martian base, one might think they were in some desert on Earth. But this was on Mars. This stood in stark contrast to a group of people just cutting the ribbon, dressed in spacesuits. Just as everyone was puzzled, the live camera surprisingly started moving, and a person in a space suit appeared on screen, exclaiming, "Oh, I accidentally recorded the ongoing experiment." Brothers, that is a type of biological technology exoskeleton that allows normal activity on the surface of Mars. This is in preparation for large-scale development of Mars in the future. By then, our gathering place will have a large artificial heat source. People wearing this exoskeleton can move freely within the heat source area on Mars. No more hassle of wearing these cumbersome spacesuits. After the introduction, the live broadcast officially ended, and the screen went black. The entire room fell silent for a few seconds before erupting into chaos. Wow. Biological technology that allows survival directly on the surface of Mars? Can I sign up for the Mars development program now? Accidental? I was wondering why the live broadcast looked so crooked. The director must have had a tough time finding angles. I want to be a Martian. What kind of Martians are they, speaking in such strange characters? Get out of here with those outdated jokes. It wasn't just the live room that was buzzing. Soon, photos of the biological exoskeleton spread around the world. Watching this group of people exposed to Mars through biological technology, as if on their home planet, some felt terrified. Some felt incredulous, and others were shocked. It turned out that a certain Eastern nation was on the verge of becoming interstellar citizens. And they, being Homo sapiens, had now truly become the indigenous people of Earth. The key point was that they could only watch helplessly. Now, as long as they wanted, the Eastern nation could colonize Mars at any time, and on a large scale. Chapter 184, Fleet, Assemble. At the underground section of the Shishan base, Fang Jing lay on a pristine medical bed in the disinfection room, with an 4 drip attached to his hand. He wasn't ill. The 4 was actually a type of energy liquid, meant to supply the extra energy needed for the growth of the biological exoskeleton. That's right. Fang Jing had finally fulfilled his wish and received the biological exoskeleton growth stimulant. How does it feel? Sun Wang was watching over him. I feel very hot. Especially my skin. Fang Jing closed his eyes, feeling his entire skin was burning. This was right. The stimulant was taking effect, and growth would take 2 hours. The growth of a biological exoskeleton is certainly more challenging than simply putting on clothes. Developing a layer with a skeletal structure and a strange keratin layer in just 2 hours is quite remarkable. 2 hours passed in a flash. Fang Jing woke up from the game, feeling oddly out of sorts. He felt a sense of discomfort all over his body, as if he had just had dental work done, experiencing a strange foreign sensation. This foreign feeling was obvious, but it would get better after a period of adjustment. Sun Wang monitored the data on the medical pod, and, seeing no issues, retracted the probe. However, after donning the biological exoskeleton, Fang Jing's breathing method changed. Previously, he breathed directly through his mouth and nose, but now, while inhaling, the entire exoskeleton, including the membrane covering his nose, was supplying him with air. This sensation felt like he was connected to a breathing tube. Slowly standing up, he looked down at his chest, abdomen, and arms, observing the skeletal-like structures. Fang Jing smiled broadly. Now he had upgraded to an interstellar citizen capable of surviving on suitable planets. The concept of interstellar citizen was coined by netizens after the information about the biological exoskeleton was released. Some enthusiastic netizens referred to those wearing it as interstellar citizens, while others were labeled as Earth natives. All right, interstellar citizen, let's get ready to go. Yuan, who was quite familiar with Fang Jing, immediately sensed his thoughts. After smiling, he reminded him, we need to prepare for departure. Yes, they were set to embark on a journey to an alien world, to a planet known as Paradise Star, where the engineer race resided. Due to the capabilities of the faster-than-light spacecraft, which were far beyond the current technology in their universe, the engineer race's ships were still in a state of disassembly, unable to be reassembled. Thus, reaching targets 2 light-years away in their universe was out of the question. The only feasible option was the planet in the Alien Covenant. Once they reached that planet, they could unlock a new world. Initially, such reckless ambition was inadvisable. However, a piece of news from Holos made it impossible to remain calm. On Paradise Star, there was not only a support base for spaceships, but also a large number of scientists from the engineer race. Scientists. Upon hearing this news, everyone was envious. LV-233 suddenly seemed less appealing. David had squandered an opportunity by directly wiping out the engineer race on that planet. Moreover, Holos reluctantly revealed that Paradise Star was merely a transit planet with no defense systems. Additionally, the spaceship system had a complete and safe navigation route. No wonder David was able to go there and achieve the best results. Without a defense system, with this information, the envy turned into something more intense. Their eyes turned green with desire. Considering all these factors, gathering of scientists, lack of defenses, safe routes, and proximity, the planet was indeed suitable for habitation. With detailed and secure star maps and navigation information from the engineering clan, the think tank found no reason to hesitate. Once there, the planetary environment could be assessed, and construction could begin immediately. The conditions were far better than those on the previous planet. Therefore, after nearly 2 months of discussions, night shifts back and forth, and thousands of plans created, all potential issues were meticulously calculated. Finally, after several key members had become quite stressed, the think tank made the decision to abandon the unsuitable planet and set off for Paradise Star. This time, however, the approach was different from before. The think tank decided to conduct a 2-pronged operation. Fang Jing led the fleet and set off directly, while the others remained on the previous planet to wait for support from a certain company. Once the support arrived, they planned to capture everything in one fell swoop, and then use the spatial gate to transport everything back to their universe. After that, they would withdraw from the planet with all their resources. Meanwhile, Fang Jing and the fleet were nearing Paradise Star. Once they arrived, Fang Jing would retrieve the spatial gate and reopen it nearby. This way, the main operation shifted from the previous planet to Paradise Star, a planet where humans could directly live on the surface. As a forward base, it even allowed for direct colonization. There were no threats here, and large-scale immigration was not a mere fantasy. Moreover, during the 2-pronged operation, the fleet had no worries at all. Besides the spatial gate, Fang Jing could also teleport back himself. Thus, communication could be maintained on both sides. Perfect. In the alien world on the previous planet, after months of exploration, all ships belonging to the engineering clan were cleared from the entire planet, totaling an astonishing 35 vessels. Among these 35 ships, the search team discovered 26 engineers who had survived against the odds. The The scientists from the region treated these intelligent beings with the respect they deserved, inviting them to a prestigious university and providing them with the same treatment as prisoners of war, albeit with stricter health precautions. After all, unlike alien specimens that could be dissected without concern, the bodies of the engineering clan were different. Living intelligent beings were not animals. Killing, torturing, or vivisecting them was a different matter altogether. With so many fresh specimens available, there was no need to cross the line of humanity for trivial gains. Moreover, with the example of Holos in mind, these engineers were far more valuable alive than dead. The biological technology of the engineering clan was immensely desirable, and the knowledge within their minds was far more valuable than their physical structures. Now, on the entire planet, a team of urgently trained captains and crew members, dressed in biological exosuits, stood ready near the Prometheus, prepared for departure. They are the crew members piloting 35 spaceships to Paradise Star. That's right, this time, the entire fleet is on the offensive. Only the dismantled wreck remains at the original location, serving as bait. Everyone is already skilled in the specific operation methods of the spacecraft. Even the space battles have been practiced hundreds of times in virtual devices. Elder Zhu, wearing an outer space suit, scanned everyone and shouted, "This time, our goal is to occupy Paradise Star and make this planet our outpost base. Is everyone clear on the mission objectives?" "Clear." All the crew members shouted in unison. Their voices were excited and invigorated. This is an opportunity for expansion and conquest. They will lead the fleet of the engineers to occupy the colonial planet of their kind. In the distance, the imprisoned Holos looked gloomy. It had indeed contributed to how to control the spacecraft, and it did so without reservation. Because, damn it, on the Prometheus, there was a bioengineered person who knew how to operate the spaceship. Elder Zhu had the two of them write manuals separately. If they didn't team match, it would be a disaster. Now, Holos was not just thinking of itself. It had 26 of its kin to consider. This was also for the sake of its kin. It reassured itself that way. However, looking at the gathering humans ahead, it couldn't comfort the guilt within. Because these guys' target was the planet they were on. Thinking about the state of defense on that planet, it was basically non-existent. Holos's expression darkened further. It was certain that soon, the number of captured engineers would soar into the thousands. Damn, it was careless, initially. It thought the engineers were invincible within known limits and never considered too many defensive measures. Moreover, this cunning group of humans was actually bringing their fleet over. Chapter 185, Paradise Star, a great place. Fang Jing and Zhou Yuan met Elder Zhu after arriving in the alien world. Xiao Fang, this opportunity is rare. There's an undefended planet. Elder Zhu stroked his chin and said cautiously, "Of course, we can't fully trust Holos's words. We have prepared a complete set of contingency plans. But, the next time we meet, it will be 2 years later." As he said this, Elder Zhu sighed, feeling emotional. He lamented his old age and was amazed that during his lifetime, the Eastern Power had achieved such a feat. "Yes, Elder Zhu. The next time we meet will indeed be 2 years later." Fang Jing looked at Elder Zhu, biting his lip. This old man looked even more emaciated compared to when they first met. His back had also inevitably become hunched. 2 years? Who knows if they would be able to see Elder Zhu again then. No need to regret. Life, aging, sickness, and death are just part of it. Elder Zhu waved his hand, smiled broadly, pointed at the Prometheus, and then at the spatial gate behind him. "Seeing all this, I have no regrets." With a faint smile, the old man Zhu suddenly said, "Besides, Dr. Zerial is here. Who knows, maybe 2 years later when you come back, I'll look younger than you." He chuckled at Fang Jing, waved his hand, and called out, Go on, Paradise Star is a great place. Let us move." After saluting Zhou Yuan turned around and led Fang Jing into the ranks. On the spaceship, Fang Jing regained his composure, looking around with curiosity. The original cargo area, once filled with black water, was now cleared out. Instead, there were several tanks. Written on the tanks were a few Chinese characters. "Dangerous gas, please handle with care." "What is this?" Fang Jing wondered. "This is something to deal with the engineers." Out of 35 ships, except for 2 that still had the black water weapons on board, the others were all loaded with this gas. As Zhou Yuan led Fang Jing through the tanks, he explained, "These tanks contain a synthetic gas. It works wonders on the engineers. If they inhale too much, they will faint and fall into a deep sleep, lasting up to 2 weeks. "Why 2 weeks? Fang Jing was puzzled. "Because after 2 weeks, the engineers will wake up from hunger." Zhou Yuan rolled his eyes at Fang Jing and continued. "This gas isn't something we experimented on the engineers. It's actually noted as their original weapon in the database we extracted from the spaceship. It's very effective. We plan to use this weapon to deploy across the whole Paradise Star and capture all the engineers." Fang Jing understood and nodded. He didn't ask why the 2 ships still had the black water weapons intact. Because those 2 ships were meant to handle emergencies. If the previous plan failed or the fleet encountered danger, then the black water weapons would be the last resort. At this moment, Fang Jing felt a hint of the coldness of the universe. However, in their current situation, they had no choice but to advance, no matter the means. Prepare for hibernation. The circular hibernation pods surrounded the main crew, who had already lain down inside. All around them was a sky full of star maps, enveloping the entire cockpit. The captain skillfully operated the spaceship, his hands constantly moving until a planet appeared at the center of the cockpit. This was their destination, Paradise Star. It was also the birthplace of the aliens. All crew members, enter hibernation mode. We are about to set sail. The captain's voice was resolute. After locking onto the target, he quickly sent the coordinates to the other 34 ships. Data transmission complete. A soft blue light illuminated the face of the flagship captain. Sitting at the control panel, his expression was determined. The 35 ships, led by their captain, would endure for 2 years to ensure the safety of the entire fleet. At this moment, they sat at the control panel, clad in the armor of the engineer race, looking even more like engineers than the engineers themselves. A high-frequency vibration sounded. This was the signal for the fleet to depart. From space, 35 massive C-shaped spacecraft slowly floated up from their spiraled open compartments. They rose steadily, standing tall on the mountain peaks, unwavering amidst the storms. This was the doomsday fleet of the engineers. Originally, this fleet was meant to give Earth a cleansing bath. However, after 2,000 years, the fleet's purpose had completely reversed. On the ground, everyone looked up, gazing at the distant ship that obscured the sun, their eyes filled with anticipation. The fleet was about to depart. The environment on planet LV-233 was still too harsh. The climatic conditions were simply unsuitable for human survival. In contrast, Paradise Planet, the gathering point for the engineers, allowed the crew of the Covenant to land without protective gear, directly setting foot on its surface. No wonder it was called Paradise Planet. It was a habitable world just like Earth, a place where humanity could thrive, and simultaneously, the destination for the crew of the Covenant to ascend to heaven. The familiar rumble echoed once more. The nearest flagship issued the sound of departure. Standing near the Prometheus, an elder named Zhu waved quietly. Elder Zhu, do not worry. We have fully mastered the operation of the engineer spacecraft. Their ships are highly advanced, and stellar storms cannot affect them at all. We won't experience the casualties like those in the original text with the Covenant, reassured a member of the think tank beside him. Yes, I know, he replied softly. Watching the C-shaped ships continue their ascent into the sky. 35 ships, equipped with the engineer's weaponry. He had no concerns about the fleet's safety. In this alien world, within the known range, apart from the engineer civilization, they would only encounter human civilization. However, there was a very practical issue with human civilization. Even if Fang Jing and their fleet couldn't win, the other side wouldn't be able to catch up. The engineer ships were faster than human ones. Your horse can't run faster than mine. The engineers were a once mighty interstellar civilization. Humanity had been exploring space for nearly 90 years and had only just found LV-233. Therefore, the dangers posed by Fang Jing and their group could be considered alarmingly low, unless a black hole suddenly emerged in their path or they encountered a neutron star up close. With this scale of fleet, combined with the engineer star maps and navigational information, there was simply no chance of encountering problems. As the ships rose into the clouds, the gap in the middle of the C-shape allowed the light of the star to shine through. Thus, the entire fleet appeared as if surrounded by a halo. Under the dazzling light, the ships departed from LV-233. From space, the 35 ships gathered together, forming a formation to protect the flagship, boldly setting off toward the endless universe. Paradise Planet, here they come. Chapter 186. Your movements are too slow. In the tranquil and pitch-black expanse of space, only a few twinkling stars could be seen. A dense fleet of ships floated, their surroundings rippling like a curtain of water. Even the light from a supernova that had flickered for billions of years was distorted. At the center of a C-type spacecraft, a black dot suddenly appeared, causing the space around the ship's cylindrical body to accelerate continuously. Even without activating the engines, the ship began to travel at high speed, propelled by the compressed space. The target was set for Paradise Star, Right Ascension 476, Ecliptic 398, Sector 87. The position was confirmed, and the flight path was calibrated using the engineer's marked Route 236. The calibration was completed, and a comparison with the engineer's star map and that of the Prometheus showed no supermassive celestial bodies along this route, which also did not pass through any main sequence stars. The flight path was confirmed. This journey was expected to involve 6 jumps, with an estimated travel time of 2 years and 1 month. Everyone was prepared for the jump. The flagship relayed the message, and all captains were ready. The flight path had been calibrated, the engines were started, and the jump engines were primed for action. Despite having simulated countless operations in virtual devices, and even taking turns piloting the ship around the LV-233 star system many times, this was still their first real interstellar voyage. Even though they could recite the flight logs and manuals of the Prometheus and the engineer's ship by heart, and could press buttons blindly, it was impossible to say they weren't nervous. On the flagship, Captain Zhang Chu, with sharp eyes, spoke loudly on the communication channel. All ships are ready. I advise all awake comrades on board. 2 years and 1 month of duty, we must not be careless. Those in sleep have entrusted their lives to us. Now, it's time for us to be tested. Everyone, respond. The remaining 34 captains echoed in unison. They bore a significant responsibility, not to mention the lives of their sleeping comrades aboard, which made them wary of any mistakes. Countdown to jump preparation. As Zhang Chu issued the command, his hand rested on a button marked with strange patterns. The countdown began. 5, 4, 1. With a swift motion, Zhang Chu, seated at the control panel, pressed the button. The jump commenced. In the serene void of space, the fleet of 35 ships formed a conical shape around them. Then, in an instant, the massive fleet vanished. They had entered jump mode, officially heading towards Paradise Star. This marked humanity's first journey across light years. Though they were using captured ships, it was still of extraordinary significance to everyone involved. On the surface of LV-233, those who remained in place quietly gazed at the sky, even though the fleet was long out of sight. Yet, the people still lifted their heads, refusing to look down. This silent gaze was a sincere blessing for the brave warriors of the fleet setting sail. Perhaps, this is the charm of cosmic exploration? Let the fierce winds blow, advancing relentlessly, by any means necessary. The fleet had set off, but that did not mean their communications were cut off. There was a certain individual on board the fleet. If an emergency arose, Captain Zhang Chu would immediately awaken him. Thus, he could directly transmit back to their universe to report the news. After a long while, Elder Zhu retracted his gaze, calculating the entire plan in his mind. Once he confirmed that all steps were in order, he let out a heavy sigh of relief. Let us go. Next we need to study the issue of the black water. Black water was a biological weapon aboard the engineers' ships. Research indicated that the alien snake was actually a variant of a more dangerous creature. This snake species had transformed from worms that had been eroded by black water. Currently, they had 35 ships stocked with black water. Finding a safe way to experiment with black water had become a significant challenge. A think tank was convening to resolve this issue, and Elder Zhu was going there to obtain the final result. The meeting went on intermittently for 3 days, and finally, a plan for the safe and reasonable utilization of black water was submitted. In the end, the experimental location was chosen to be in the 9 provinces world. This choice was well-reasoned. The think tank concluded that the potential hazards of black water were too great, with biological risks that were hard to defend against. Therefore, the research would be conducted in a fully automated process, in a space environment, and controlled remotely. Caution was paramount. This was also why the 9 provinces world was selected. At that moment, the entire solar system was composed of their own people. In contrast, their universe still had native inhabitants of another planet. Although it was difficult for those inhabitants to leave their planet, there was a chance they might unite their strength for a significant strike. The unmanned laboratory could not be placed too far away due to communication delay issues. Thus, other countries in their universe could indeed reach it. If they got their hands on this thing, it would spell trouble. They would certainly end up creating some dangerous creatures. If they were then brought back, it would be catastrophic for their universe. So Zhou Ji decided to place this thing in the 9 provinces world. They would directly designate a restricted area in space. What if someone recklessly runs into the restricted area? Zhou Ji chuckled. Have you heard of ships that stop functioning upon entering a restricted zone? Exactly. We can simply add a feature in the back end of all ships that would shut down the power systems immediately upon entering the restricted area. That way, who could possibly intrude? This black substance, if used wisely, can rapidly advance biotechnology. If misused, it could lead to catastrophic consequences. At the meeting, Cyril made a rare appearance. This black substance was simply too enticing for him. With a burning gaze, he addressed Elder Zhu, Zhou Ji, and Elder Wang, saying, "The biotechnology of the engineering clan is truly fascinating. Now, with the engineer's assistance, I am confident that I can create something interesting with this black substance." Interesting things? Elder Zhu raised an eyebrow, intrigued. How interesting? Hee. We're looking at creating a fast-growing plant that can quickly alter the atmospheric structure. Cyril replied with a grin, speaking softly. I've heard that in the Node universe, a massive comet was discovered in the asteroid belt. Elder Zhu, wouldn't you want to go big? To be honest, the progress of the Node universe in space exploration has been too slow. It is completely unworthy of current technology. We possess a fusion engine capable of propelling planets. Just with the technology from our wandering planet, if fully developed, it could elevate the Node universe to a stellar civilization. I dare say that our universe has barely tapped into even 10 of the potential of our technology. It's too slow. Chapter 187. Mars Transformation Plan. It's too slow. This is Cyril's sentiment. Of course, it could also be due to the different environment. The Node universe is relatively safe, and thus somewhat complacent. However, in comparison to the crisis-ridden wandering planet, the productivity of the Node universe is lagging far behind. It doesn't even reach 3 of what we have. We must remember that once the mountain-moving plan is approved, the wandering planet will construct thousands of planetary engines that are as massive as mountains within a decade. That's thousands of units, not just 1 or 2. Although that is the result of the collective efforts of humanity, the Node universe cannot muster such global strength. And its domestic productivity doesn't need to be at full throttle, yet it shouldn't be just at 3. Therefore, there's definitely room for improvement in speed. Cyril thought of a topic, his eyes lighting up. Planetary environment transformation. In an alternate world, the Villain Corporation has a product that is a planetary atmosphere modification machine. However, that device is too slow. It often requires multiple units over several years to alter a planet's atmospheric structure. Cyril had previously worked on a project to modify planetary atmospheric environments using biotechnology. However, cultivating suitable fast-growing plants has been a significant challenge. But now, with this black substance, this artifact of the engineering clan gives him confidence that he can develop such suitable fast-growing plants. But, Dr. Cyril, what about the environment for plant growth? A biologist from the think tank raised a question. If we want to transform a planet's atmospheric structure to make it habitable, the only planet in the solar system I can think of is Mars. However, the temperature difference on Mars is too great, and there isn't enough water to support the operation. His words plunged the think tank into discussion. Some agreed, some questioned, some pondered, and others' eyes lit up. No, no, no. Sir, you are only considering Mars' native environment. Cyril waved his hand and explained with a smile. If we only rely on the native environment, transforming Mars would indeed be very challenging. But why limit ourselves to the native environment? The biologist had expertise in biology, which Cyril acknowledged. However, this time he made a fundamental mistake by only considering Mars' native environment. But why only focus on that? The heat issue can be directly addressed with fusion energy. We could even go bigger and create an artificial sun in Mars' orbit to provide heat. After all, fusion makes rocks worthless in the solar system. Cyril was determined to make a bold statement. He extended a finger and, under the astonished gaze of the think tank's biologist, continued to explain. The light and heat issue is resolved. As for water, the fleet has discovered a large icy comet in the asteroid belt. It's said that this comet is not much smaller than the moon. Suddenly, Cyril clapped his hands, excitedly stating, "We can break down this comet and directly introduce it to Mars. That way, the water issue is also solved. With light, heat, and water taken care of, the rest can be left to plants. As long as we can create fast-growing plants that can alter the atmospheric structure, Mars could indeed be transformed into a habitable planet, a manufactured miracle. This way, we could even reduce the cost of biological exoskeletons. We just need to retain the exoskeleton to maintain internal pressure." Cyril's eyes sparkled more as he spoke. Indeed, this would make the cost and production speed of biological exoskeletons no longer a problem. The last issue for survival on Mars, atmospheric pressure, would also be resolved. As soon as Cyril finished speaking, the room fell silent. Several physicists in the think tank immediately pulled out suitcase-sized quantum computers from under the table and began calculations. Nearby, mathematicians quickly joined in as well. If we only maintain the function of pressurization, the solution for producing biological exoskeletons would be extremely simple, significantly lowering the production difficulty. If we operate 10 production lines simultaneously, we could meet the needs of 100,000 people in a day. This transformation plan is feasible for extraterrestrial planets. It is impossible for each one to be exactly like Earth. Therefore, targeted modifications are necessary. For now, this approach is viable. Once we master the technology for pressurizing Mars, we might not even need the exoskeletons. After calculations by the think tank, this plan indeed seems doable. Transforming Mars, Zhu muttered to himself. This is indeed a good plan. On Earth, the Eastern powers are somewhat constrained. Moreover, the Eastern powers will inevitably go through this stage. Humanity venturing into space will undoubtedly differ from those remaining on Earth. Because of humanity, all functions of the body have evolved to survive in the Earth's environment. Leaving Earth and becoming an interstellar species, humans must continue to evolve. And this time, evolution cannot rely on the slow accumulation of time through primitive methods. This time, humanity must actively seek evolution, using biotechnology to better adapt to space and the universe. This evolution is historically significant. Its importance is equivalent to, and in some ways even surpasses, the ancient feat of fish choosing to come ashore. A fish that has come ashore is no longer a fish. Similarly, humans who leave Earth and venture into space will eventually differ from the original humans. This can also be considered another form of evolution. We will engineer a type of exoskeleton that can be shed, which will simply serve to maintain internal pressure. We will immediately explore the feasibility of Mars orbit and artificial suns. We will follow Dr. Cyril to study fast-growing plants that can modify the Martian atmosphere. That enormous icy comet will be our responsibility to contact. The think tank members were instantly excited. Transforming Mars. This could be the largest modification project in human history. This is a significant turning point in human history. Each of them felt honored to be part of it. Everyone was looking at Mr. Zhu, waiting for him to propose an idea. This plan is bold and radical. Mr. Zhu twirled his fingers, smiled softly, and said to Dr. Cyril, "However, given our current productivity, it's actually manageable. So I approve it." Great. Even Dr. Cyril became excited. The think tank was even more invigorated. "You all quickly form a plan for this, and then hand it to me." Mr. Zhu slowly stood up, a smile appearing on his face. We were discussing Blackwater, and somehow the topic shifted to transforming Mars. All right, let's end today's meeting here. We'll continue discussing Blackwater tonight. Use this time to thoroughly discuss the plan. Chapter 188. This planet is about to get lively. In this universe, in Mars orbit, the Jupiter gravity ship was dragging a massive icy comet along with numerous cargo ships to this location. Fortunately, the icy comet was not too far from Mars. As for how such a large icy comet is being towed, and by what means, don't ask. Just know it's thanks to the technology of Wandering Earth. It's all about the incredible planetary engines and advanced materials science. Meanwhile, the Kunming ship was supervising the entire process. In the cockpit, the arms officer looked confused and asked Captain Wu, "Captain, what exactly are we doing with this huge ice ball?" Captain Wu also looked bewildered. They had received the mission to escort the cargo. Initially thinking it was something important, they were surprised to witness the dramatic scene of the spaceship towing an asteroid. Are they going to perform a show of pulling a boat? Our mission is just to watch the icy comet. Captain Wu shook his head. He knew very well not to ask what shouldn't be asked. The icy comet was just one aspect. Look here. The intelligence officer chuckled and waved his hand, causing the newly installed holographic projection to shift. Next to Mars, a small green dot appeared in its orbit. What is this? It's a research vessel, carrying planetary ecologists. Planetary ecologists, what is that? Forgive Wutong for being a bit confused. What on earth is a planetary ecologist? This is a separately established discipline, supposedly aimed at transforming planetary environments. The intelligence officer certainly lived up to his title. As he spoke, Wu Tong raised an eyebrow. Goodness. Transforming planetary environments. Stationed in Mars orbit. Who are they transforming it for? The answer was obvious. These things, including the icy comet, are meant to transform Mars. Wu Tong's gaze shifted to the other side of the holographic projection. There, above Mars orbit, was a massive construction site. Robots were densely surrounding a core for construction. The silhouette of a spherical mechanical device was gradually becoming clearer. This was a gigantic spherical structure, so large that it was almost unbelievable. With the entire mining base's capacity barely supporting its construction, the estimated radius exceeded 10,000 meters. Undoubtedly, this would be humanity's largest space creation. No, it would be humanity's greatest creation. Wu Tong had no idea what it was, but he knew that this thing was likely related to transforming Mars. This enormous artificial celestial body could potentially be the future artificial sun illuminating Mars. Meanwhile, there were also some foil canopies in Mars orbit. The foil canopies primarily block various cosmic rays and solar radiation directed at the Martian surface. This was a significant project. The entire surface of Mars was currently bustling with construction. A major power in the east seemed to be laying claim to Mars, plotting for the heart of the solar system. Moreover, they not only had this ambition, but they were actually following through. Mars was already in their grasp. Outside the development base on Mars, several planetary ecologists were guarding a biologist in a basin. Nearby, there was a massive mobile research vehicle. On top of the vehicle, there was a small light source, providing ample light and heat, allowing the surrounding environment to escape the constraints of Martian winter, maintaining a temperature of 27 degrees. They were now planting a specific type of plant and supplying water. The biologist nodded to a few companions, then took out a glass tube from the mobile research vehicle. Inside the glass tube was a newly researched fast-growing strain of algae. This was a variant of seaweed. Using black water, it rapidly transformed, allowing for the selection of beneficial genes, thus cultivating a cold and drought-resistant fast-growing strain. How fast is it? Water. A hose drawn from the research vehicle immediately began to flow. The 109th experiment is now starting. Please pay attention to data recording. The biologist nodded at the camera lens, then promptly opened the glass tube and scattered the seeds onto the sandy soil in front of him. If someone skilled in planting were to witness this scene, they would surely criticize the roughness of the planting method. What kind of planting involves simply adding water and soil, then scattering seeds? On Earth, which crops aren't carefully nurtured? With such a crude method, can anything survive? However, this is precisely the effect that biologists aim for. The species they wish to cultivate should thrive under such conditions: a handful of soil, a handful of water, in a suitable environment, without any fuss, allowing plants to grow wildly. They actually disdain crops that require meticulous care. That was due to past technological limitations, where crops could only be raised in such a manner. Now that technology has advanced, why treat plants like cherished offspring? If they don't thrive, just switch to cultivating another crop. Seeds are scattered from the hands of biologists onto the Martian sand. Soaked by the flowing water, the countdown begins. Once the seeds are sown, the biologists fix their gaze intently on the soil before them. Changes occur almost instantaneously. In the area where the seeds were scattered, a patch of green begins to spread, growing to the size of a fist in just a moment. Moreover, this algae spreads rapidly, quickly covering all the areas with water in the basin within the next 10 minutes. Fast-growing species. Fast-growing species. This is the rapid growth of modified organisms. These plants, akin to aliens, grow from juvenile to adult in what seems like a void, with an astonishing growth rate. Their growth speed is top-notch, carbon dioxide conversion rate is first-rate, and sand-fixing rate is average. Biologists bring testing equipment close to the surface of the plants. The fast-growing algae have already begun intense photosynthesis. These fast-growing algae can serve as auxiliary crops for planetary ecological transformation, mainly functioning in early oceans. Seeing the data, the biologists nod in satisfaction. With such a growth rate, if Mars were to form oceans, this type of algae could cover the entire ocean and land in just 1 month. Fast-growing species, special varieties, are precisely suited for the Martian environment, growing quickly, producing oxygen frantically, and ultimately dying. These algae will perish within a month, and their decomposed bodies will blanket the entire planet, becoming nutrients for future plants. Black water truly is a marvel of biotechnology. The biologists glance at the vast, desolate surface of Mars, feeling a sense of nostalgia. If they had relied on traditional techniques, they might never have selected such fast-growing algae in their lifetime. However, by utilizing black water to directly sever the genetic material of the original algae and then splice and select, they managed to develop hundreds of fast-growing plants in just half a month. Now, testing which of these plants is more suitable for survival on Mars has become the more time-consuming task. Watching the drifting dust in the distance, the biologists slowly smile and softly murmur, "Let us take a moment to cherish this barren Mars while we can. Soon, it will be unrecognizable. This planet will soon be bustling with life." Chapter 189, Space Elevator, but on Mars. In the world of the 9 regions, above the Earth-Moon orbit, lies a certain forbidden zone. A massive unmanned space laboratory is filled with robots constantly at work. Within this station, all biological weapons are stored. Currently, the laboratory is conducting experiments using a particular substance. Sample 522, a plant, is being dissolved by this substance. The identified dissolved gene fragments are undergoing mechanical selection and recombination. Once recombined, the gene fragments are being uploaded. The entire laboratory, with the assistance of an intelligent system, can now develop a fast-growing plant variety in just 10 minutes. The data of the recombined gene fragments will be uploaded to a ground laboratory. The ground laboratory will then utilize biotechnology to verify and introduce the recombined gene fragments into the plants. Thus, a seed of the improved fast-growing plant variety is created. Therefore, the effectiveness of this substance depends on how it is used. When used well, it is a miraculous